I know, I was,
All
right, let's call this meeting to order. This is the May 18th meeting of the Concord City Planning Board. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Chairman Woodfin?
Here.
Councilor Pierce?
Here.
Member Smithmeyer? Here. Member Rosenberger? Here. Member Fox?
here,
Member Santa Cruz?
Here.
Member Dolcino? Is
Here.
that right? Dolcino? Okay.
All right, we have a quorum. We'll open the meeting. First item on the agenda tonight is to approve the minutes from the April 20th, 2022 Planning Board meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes as submitted?
So moved.
second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item overview for tonight. I believe everything on the agenda tonight is going to be heard. Is that correct?
Yes.
Unless,
So we do have an item 8F, interchange development, which I believe we're going to have some discussion on. I don't think there's anybody here from interchange development yet. So when they come in, we'll address that. So first item on our agenda tonight is design review applications by consent. No, sorry, determination of completeness component for the first item, which is item 5A. Could we get a quick staff update on that for determination of completeness?
We recommend determining it complete.
Okay, no issues, so we've got, 5A, Aaron Lambert on behalf of Concord Coalition and Homelessness request a major site plan approval to convert a 2-unit residential structure into a 6-unit residential structure at 120 to 122 Pleasant Street in the institutional district. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact?
So moved.
And set the public hearing for next month. You didn't even let me finish. So motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So the public hearing on that item will be next month. Item 6 on our agenda is design review applications by consent. Items 6A, 6B, 6C, 6D, 6E, and 6F are on consent agenda. That means that all those items will be heard in bulk. We've looked at them. Architectural design reviews weighed in, and comments and concerns regarding those signs have all been put into the notes. And if anybody's here to speak against any of those applications that are in, please make yourself known. Any member of the board wish to pull any of those items from consent? If not, we'll take an application to approve those items on consent, 6A through F, as submitted with architectural design review comments.
Move consent. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, so those are all set. So we will move on to our public hearing section of the meeting. Item 7, design review applications. If we could read 7A into the record.
Advantage Signs, on behalf of Village Street Apartments, request ADR approval for the installation of a new non-illuminated freestanding sign at 95 Village Street in the General Commercial District. I will let Sam give an update on that.
Sure. So this sign, as well as the one right after it, they've both already been installed without permits. The fees have been assessed. ADR took issue with the size of the phone number. There's 2 logos in the corners of the signs as well. There was some speculation that those may be required based on some of the funding sources that were used for these projects, but they also had concerns that the street number was not on the signs as well. So for both of these, ADR's recommendation was to revise and resubmit. The applicants have been informed. I have received communication from the sign installer for the following sign, but we have not received anything for the tannery sign yet. So
Advantage sign isn't here, are you? I mean, this is an ongoing problem with these guys, and it's always seems to be Advantage sign. And I'm sick and tired of seeing signs that come in and haven't gone through the process. I mean, it got better, Sam, right?
they were
better.
the low bid on this project, so they were under, from what was told to ADR, they were in the understanding that all the permits had been acquired. They were just told build this, and they did. So they were out of the loop.
Permanently.
I mean, Rosemary's Way. So Rosemary's Way, the folks at Alliance Asset are going to be on the hook, or Catch are going to be on the hook for redoing that sign, right?
I would imagine so.
Any comment, any question? Yes, Suzanne?
I think that if it's not appropriate and they had it up before, we can just either put it off for another month or just not accept it, or,
Josh did reach out to me. He asked for the minutes. He was going to redesign. I expected to see something, although we haven't received anything yet.
so maybe we just put it off till next month when he does.
Postpone it?
Yeah.
That
okay.
seems reasonable.
So, recommendation to postpone, we have a motion to postpone, or we want to table it? You don't have to notice these, do you? No. So just table?
Sure.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so motion to table, we've got a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that's Rosemary's Way sign will be tabled. On table the other one as well? Or no?
Same issues.
Is it the exact same?
Same
It's the
issue?
exact same issues.
Same
yeah.
issue, so we'll make a motion to table that one as well. I'll
I'll-
make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that motion carries. Sam, I think those, the housing logo and the
Handicap.
handicap logo do have to be on there. I just don't know that they need to be that big. I mean, I don't know. It looks really big on the sign, the image, but it doesn't look very big on the street view. And the phone number is huge. I do agree with that.
Those were their bigger concerns, was the size of the phone number
agree.
and the lack of a street number.
I do agree.
Yeah, that's what I thought. The biggest thing that caught my eye was the lack of a street name or number on there, so you have no reference. And it should be on the sign. I know they talked about it being like, oh, we'll just add it to the post. No, I think it should be on the sign itself, not
Yep.
some sort of vertical attachment.
Okay, so both those items, 7A, 7B, have been tabled. And again, I'd like to hear from somebody at Advantage Signs, whether they're here in person or through you. That'd be great. All right, let's move on to 8A in our agenda, if we could read that into the record.
Lashing Out Studio LLC, on behalf of Concord White Properties, requests a conditional use permit for the use of a salon at 112 Pleasant Street in the institutional district. Staff recommends the application be determined complete, not a development of regional impact, and to open the public hearing.
Okay, so we've got a determination of completeness component, and we'll make a motion that the application has been determined complete, not a development of regional impact, and open the public hearing. Someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Public hearing's open. Is the applicant here? Come on up. So could we get a quick staff update on this?
Sure, this is really straightforward. This is a CUP to simply allow the use in the district. The use is only permitted in this district by CUP. So we've gotten a sketch from the applicant detailing that there is adequate parking and adequate parking not only for the square footage of the use, but also for all of the other uses within the building. That is really staff's only concern. There is no site work, just a regular building fit up for the use. So staff recommends approval of the CUP.
All right, well, I had you come up, so now I got to ask your names. If you could state your names for the record. I don't know that we need to have any testimony from you, but we'll ask your names for the record if we could.
Yep, I'm Brianna Ash.
And I'm Melissa Ash.
Great. So anything, we don't need to ask anything if you don't want to answer anything, but I think Sam told us pretty much what you're going to be doing, and really all it is a conditional use permit, so.
Yes.
Okay. Someone like to make a motion to approve that conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set?
Thank you.
Thank
Did
you.
Did you guys sign the sheet, just since,
Yeah, if you could
just
just
so we
sign
can
it, that'd
spell
be
your names
great.
right in the record?
Thank you.
Oh, there's no
Sorry
pen over
for
there.
dragging you up here.
Oh, no, that's okay.
All right, let's read item 8B into the record if we could.
North Point Engineering
Thank you so
and
much.
Concord National Youth Softball, on behalf of the City of Concord, request conditional use permit approval for disturbance of wetland buffers for construction of batting cages at Russell Martin Athletic Fields on Ironworks Road and the single-family residential district. Staff recommends the application be determined complete, not a development of regional impact, and to open the public hearing.
Okay, so again, we've got a determination of completeness component. Staff determined that this is not a development of regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete and open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Public hearing is open. Could we get a quick staff update on this?
Sure, it's a pretty simple project. They're going to be adding batting cages adjacent to some of the existing athletic fields out there. It's already a disturbed wetland buffer area. It's maintained as lawn. This went before the Conservation Commission last week, and they did not have any objection to the proposal.
Okay. You got it. Come on up. Welcome to the table. If you could state your names for the record.
Absolutely. My name is Jeff Lewis from North Point Engineering. And
Mike Flossage with Concord National Youth Softball.
Great, well, welcome. So you're putting in some batting cages, huh?
I'm going to throw in my,
You might have to go on the other side.
It's gonna need a password, I think, to open up the
do
screen.
You're going to have to
I don't
re-enter.
have the password.
It's written on
It's
there.
right there.
Oh, all right.
And that's a 0, not an O.
It's a 0.
I think you'd remember from last time.
You can test, Jeff.
See if I got it right.
Give it to me, I know.
That's it. You should approve it now, right?
You passed our
Test.
test.
Yeah.
So, just for the record, I'm also a member of the Conservation Commission here in Concord. This is just as Beth mentioned, a batting cage at Russell Martin Park. This is, boy. We have here Adobe. There we
Do you want to clarify that you recused yourself from the decision of the Conservation
Sure,
Commission last week?
Yes, I did recuse myself from the decision of the Conservation Commission last week when this was discussed there. So this is a project that's been brought back before the Planning Board many times over the past couple of decades. The volunteers with the local youth little leagues and softball leagues have put in a lot of time out here building these two youth fields, which are both now softball fields. Mike is on the board of directors for the Youth Softball League in Concord now, which runs both of these fields. We were here a few years ago. I was here a few years ago with the board members at that time for a site plan amendment for the second field, the newer field here, which has just been built within the past 4 or 5 years. What they're looking to do now is put a batting cage in this area that's right between the fields. You can see right here. It's just easier to see on this this plan. This is just it's a lawn area between the two fields where the spectators sit and kids can warm up out there right now. So it is a mowed area. If you go out there, you'll see softballs on the edge of the wetland that's out here. So what they want to do is just build, it's a batting cage, so it's just a tall, chain link type fence structure with netting over it that they'll take down in the winter and have up during the season from the spring to fall, just to contain, the batted balls. So they'll have 2 designated areas to pitch and hit in there. Very similar to what's down in Memorial Field next to the Little League fields if you've been down there. And that's it. So we're technically in the wetland buffer out here. Let's see. Look at my plan here. So there's the plan. So you can see the cages back there, proposed cages. There's a big wetland over here. We had a wetland impact to build the field, and everything that's out there is pretty much within that wetland buffer. So that batting cage will be about half within the wetland buffer. Again, it's all a disturbed area already. We're not looking to take down any trees. We're just going to put it snug up against there. I did recommend that they kind of raise the grade there a little bit because it does get wet out there in the spring and the fall when the ground's wet. So they're going to probably take out the loam and put 8 to 12 inches of just crushed gravel in there, and then seed on top of that, just so they make sure they have a dry area in the batting cage. So we'll be raising the grade a little bit. I think that's what necessitates the conditional use permit because we are impacting the ground. Obviously, we're putting fence posts in. But that's basically it. So we're just here for conditional use permit, no other site plan approval. This is a city park, so the city has signed off on this application, and we're just looking for the approval from the board.
Okay, any electricity or any lights in that area?
There's electricity there now. They have a utility shed. They have scoreboards. They do have
to the batting cage.
Oh, not to the batting cage. No, there won't be any need for electricity there, right?
You gonna have pitching machines or?
We'll run an extension.
Yeah.
Okay.
Question.
Yep.
It's my understanding that the softball players use that area now for batting and pitching?
Warming up and, yeah, for,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and what would be access to this? If there's no games going on, would the public have access, the local?
It's
Okay.
it's a city field that's open to the public, yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
My only question was, is there any way to shift it to the right a little bit to not have it in? I mean, if you're talking about raising the grade because it floods, there's no contours on this map, so I have no idea if
It's
we
very,
shift it to the right, is there any change in elevation? So maybe it's less prone to flood for you?
it's very flat out there. I mean, this whole field is wet. It's a problem. That whole first field that gets built, they have a lot of problems with that. I mean, it's unusable at certain times when it's wet. So when we built this field, we put under drains in and we built it higher because we knew it's a problem out there. This area here is still a little lower. It's all flat out there though. I think that if you're out there at game times and there's 2 games going on, the spectators are in here, so there's a lot of activity in here. So trying to keep it as far back there is gonna be the most ideal for them. So we kind of have it right to the edge of where the existing trees are, so we don't have to take down any trees that are out there. I do have some photos out there if you wanna see what it looks like. So this is kind of the edge of the tree. It'd be right in this area here. That's looking at the upper field. So it's basically right in this area right here.
Okay, thank you, that gives me a better image. I was thinking it dropped off and
Yeah,
you were
no.
building the backside up.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this? Sure, come on up. You guys could step back.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Hey, we know you.
Yeah,
Recognize you behind the mask.
I know, sorry about that.
I'll make you state your name for the record.
My name is Ian West, and I live directly across, my family and I live directly across from Martin Field on Ironworks Road. And I just have a couple of comments and questions regarding the softball work that's going on back there. We've been there for about 8 years, and they've been great neighbors. We have no problems with them, and it's nice to be across from the park. I think the concern of mine and our neighbors is kind of what comes next. So in looking at the map, there's a phase 3 eventually down the road planned, a 2-story building with a concession stand, and it looks like among some other changes as well. And our concern, again, is not with the softball. That's fine. The concern is a little bit having to do with access. So what happens on Ironworks Road, and this happens fairly regularly, again, no fault of the softball fields, is that those fields have no security at all. And so it's pretty often that we have a police presence, roughly monthly in that area, because what can happen is cars go up and then the parking lot kind of dips down a little bit, so it's pretty easy to hide back there. It's not lit, there's no gate, there's no cameras. And additionally, in times of softball, the traffic direction around Martin Field itself is typically not followed. And again, this is not exclusive to the people playing softball. This happens all the time with everything that goes on there. But as that site expands, as it's built out, I think, certainly myself and my neighbors want to make sure that the city is aware of some of these traffic issues and security issues and safety issues in that area. Again, none of us have any problem with it being there, with it being utilized. That's all great. We just want to make sure some of those concerns are taken into account as the site continues to be built out.
Was it, were you there before when there was only one field there?
I honestly don't remember. We moved in October of 13. I don't know. I cannot recall when the second field was built.
Okay. So again, anything like that, again, put a second story on, so build up the second story, 2-story building, a little clubhouse building probably with concession on the first floor and a little storage for stripers and lime and things like that, and then a press box type thing to overlook the field. Lights would obviously be the next step, and I'm interested in if you'd want it lit 24/7 or 365 days a year.
Yeah, I mean,
given that it's only really used for softball.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, the short answer is no, right? So, I think that from our standpoint, I mean, to sit kind of on your front porch
Yeah.
And, we're tucked between 89 and 93.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know specifically what goes on, but we know we have cars that come in from the west, they come in from the east, they go back there. And again, this is not their fault. I have nothing against the field being there. But because there is not, we had somebody try to drive in last winter, try to drive their car under a chain that was kind of like added to some rocks, and they got stuck. And when you see, 2 or 3 police cruisers with their lights blasting back there once a month, again, no problem with the softball. I just want to make sure that as this work is done, it is taken into account that we should probably have something, maybe lights on a timer, maybe there's a gate that can close, something to make sure that people are not accessing that at times they really shouldn't be.
Is it chained off now?
No, it is only chained off sometimes during the winter, and sometimes that chain is not attached.
Okay. All right, any questions for Mr. West? No? Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, go
thank
ahead.
you.
Whoops, wait a
I
minute.
just wanted to, for the record, there's no other phases or proposals as part of this application, just so everybody's
Right,
clear,
right.
there's no,
Oh,
this
yes.
is,
Right,
that
I
is
think he
not,
sees
they,
it on
the
on the
ball
plan.
field has had long-term plans for a long time, ever since I've been here, where those have been in them, but there are no plans or proposals for any additional, anything at all, other than this is strictly for the batting cages. I also want to mention that all the stuff that you're bringing up about the park, you might want to sort of send something to the Parks Department, because
Yep.
it is actually under the purview of the city parks.
Yep,
Department.
David Gill, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been in contact with David Gill. Again, I just wanted,
Sure.
I'm not opposed
Put
to
it on the record, yep.
softball, anything like that. Just wanted to bring it up, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the audience have any questions or concerns? No? We'll close the public hearing. And all right, so in your packet, we have item 3.1 is to grant conditional use approval to allow for the disturbance of wetland buffer for the construction of a batting cage at Russell Martin Athletic Field, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions noted below, and that's outlined in precedent conditions 1 and 2 and subsequent condition 1. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You guys are all set. Thank you. Good luck. Okay, let's move on in our agenda. We could, items 8C.
CMAF Enterprises LLC requests minor subdivision approval for a condominium conversion of an existing two-family structure at 6 Thorndike Street in the Urban Commercial District. Staff recommends the application be determined complete, not a development of regional impact, and to open the public hearing.
Okay, so staff has determined the application complete, not a development of regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete and open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. The public hearing's open. Come on up and give a quick staff update if we could, Sam.
Sure. This is just a conversion of an existing two-family into condos. There is a parking area being formalized with a paved surface where I believe it's mostly just gravel at the moment. The existing curb cut will be maintained with basically a concrete swath, and then the paved area will be added onto the backside of that. We have received a revised plan that is updated, more updated than what you have there. One of the staff comments was to conform with our regulations, there needed to be a 24-foot wide drive aisle behind the parking for maneuverability. That's in our zoning ordinance. That has been added. That meets our regulations. Also per the regs, an accessible space has been included. That is also van accessible. The plans have also addressed a number of the staff comments, and a couple of the waivers are no longer applicable as those have been addressed. However, the applicant has requested a new waiver relative to the driveway width at the throat of the driveway. They're very constrained based on the proximity to the building and also to the property line. As you know, we have a 5-foot pavement setback from any property lines. So we advise that the applicant request a waiver, which they have done. They've provided a full waiver application, and staff is recommending that waiver be granted.
Okay, welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record?
Mike Frisbee.
Okay, Mike. So I'm having a hard time picturing this. This is right behind Capital Paint and Wallpaper, so
Correct.
off of Main Street, it's the first house in on the right.
Yep,
As
Capital
going up.
Paint, their parking lot, and then the house.
Okay.
Directly across from the school.
Directly across from the parking lot area.
Yeah,
the
of the
school. Okay.
church school, yeah.
All right, do you want to add anything to that discussion, or tell us about the need for a waiver at the throat?
Well, it's narrow at the throat. It's about 9 feet wide, I think.
9.2.
Yeah, I was off by 0.2. So, there are two things there. There's a property line as you're coming into the driveway on the right-hand side, and then there's also the water shut-off, which is on the very corner of that driveway. So widening that at all would be difficult.
Put you over both of them, huh? Okay. So Sam, in the report, we have, you said there's a couple of waivers that are going to be taken out of this?
Yeah, the recommendation to deny the waivers for the vicinity and location plan, those are no longer applicable, so you do not have to act on
Okay,
those.
so 4.1 can be taken out?
You could actually replace it with granting a waiver to table 10-1 for driveway width.
Table 10-1?
That's
Okay. All right, this is a public hearing. Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns regarding this application? No? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony. Any comments or questions from the board? Yes, Jeff?
Sam, do you have the new plan?
I do.
Is there any way to pop it up there? The reason I have a question. When I'm looking at the old plan, the first parking spot actually sticks about 4 feet into the driveway as you
Yeah.
get to the back. If you've got a large pickup truck there, there's no way another car is getting around there.
The parking has been switched.
Okay. My other concern is that the specific parking spaces on this plan are noted to be tied to specific units.
Yes.
How is that gonna work with the ADA space if somebody from the other unit is actually the one that's in need of the space?
That is a very good point, and I would imagine that that could be addressed in the condo docs. However, that does beg the question, you know, you have these labeled on the plan, a revision needs to be made post-recording of the plan.
Something to address,
Yeah,
I don't know.
we may have to
Do the
get-
documents have to state that this space and this space is for this unit, or can you just say 2 spaces per unit? And that allows a little bit more flexibility to the owners to decide which 2 based on the unit needs.
that's something we can do, and we have the draft condominium documents that is being reviewed by staff, and we have comments, we'll be in communication with you about those.
I just would hate to see it tied and then
Yeah.
you find yourself in with a lawyer because somebody in the other unit suddenly is the one that needs the space and it's not accessible to them. So if the parking's been flipped and that tight area's been addressed, then
Yeah, it
I'm
works
all
better
set.
now this way. Unfortunately, obviously, they lose a lot of yard space, but
Yes, almost all of
that's what
it.
it is.
Those were really my 2 concerns. I just didn't want to tie it and want to make sure that
Yeah.
people could get in and out.
Well, it's a good point though, Jeff, because the spot one, I mean, a regular full-size car is going to stick right out into the drive aisle.
Right. But if it's flipped now, and
Yeah.
the parking's on the left and it's
Yeah.
all,
Do you have a plan to put up? Or?
I thought.
John was supposed to be here. but-
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
I was
So-
hoping he'd bring the thumb drive.
So the parking, so if it's flipped to the left, will there still be those little bump outs on both sides
I'm
there?
assuming the driveway now comes in a little bit more to the right, Sam? When you come
Correct.
in, so that,
Yep.
Thumb drive, I have it
so
here.
the driveway would shift away from the building as you come in, and then the parking lots would
Yeah, yeah.
driveway, yeah. If that's the case, your 24-foot aisle width is on the right-hand side, which would mean you should have a lot more room to maneuver around.
Okay,
If I'm explaining that,
Yeah, I mean, I have the plan, but,
Yeah, I can, I have a thumb drive here, I just gotta carry everything over and,
do we want to see that?
no, if
As long as you're
Sam's saying it's
comfortable
been
with that, I'm
flipped
fine
and
with
it's
that.
comfortable and
Yeah,
those
yeah.
2 issues
it's
have
a
been
better
addressed,
layout, it
Yeah.
functions better now.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as you're comfortable with that.
yeah, no, that's good. I was just, hearing that made me feel so much better.
Excellent.
Okay, so in our report here, we've got, again, 4.1's being replaced with table 10.1 regarding, Sam? Driveway width. Quite write that down. So would someone like to make a motion to, in 4.1, we'll handle that separately, so table 10.1 regarding driveway width, would someone like to make a motion to grant that waiver?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So 4.2 is to grant the waiver from section 1502 plan scale to provide drawings 1 inch to 10-foot scale. I'm not going to read all that. We got a motion to grant that waiver as so eloquently outlined. Oops, that was my pen top, sorry. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And 4.3 is to grant the minor subdivision approval for the condominium subdivision at 6 and 6.5 Thorndike Street, subject to the following conditions, and those are outlined in conditions 1 through 7. Any changes to those, Sam, given the waiver change?
Nope.
Okay, someone like to make a motion to grant minor subdivision approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move right along to item 8D in our agenda.
Richard Barlin Associates LLC on behalf of HLF East LLC and David and Jennifer Albert request minor subdivision approval for a lot line adjustment between 126 and 134 Manchester Street in the Highway Commercial District. Staff recommends the application be determined complete, not a development of regional impact, and to open the public hearing.
Okay, so we have a determination completeness component again with no development of regional impact. Someone like to make a motion that the application is complete and open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We'll open the public hearing. Get a quick staff update if we could.
Sure, this lot line adjustment is part of the Grapponi Mazda site plan application. This was a condition of approval, and this is to address, there's some encroachment on the property, on the northwest property line, and they are selling that portion of the land to the abutter. So this is that lot line adjustment.
Oh, there.
Okay. Well, welcome to the table, Mr. Sargent. If you could state your name for the record.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Mark Sargent, and I'm with the firm of Richard Bartlett and Associates, and I'm here tonight representing HLF East and the Alberts. I'll put the plan up on the screen. The property is located at 126, 134 Manchester Street. 126, which if you've driven by there, it's the Price Auto, is the Albert parcel, has an area of 0.74 acres with 75.83 feet of frontage and a commercial building without storage, outside storage for vehicles. 134 Manchester, which is the HLF East parcel, has an area of 3.98 acres with 549 feet of frontage on Manchester Street, and also a commercial building and associated parking. The lot line before the board this evening is a small triangular piece located right up here.
There. Show me again. Sorry.
Can you see
Show me
that?
again.
Right here.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
You see it? Yeah, and it's kind of blown up right here.
Yeah.
So it's only 530 square feet of the HLF parcel, which is going to be annexed to the Albert parcel, and that will give a new lot area of the Albert parcel of 0.75 acres, with now the frontage would increase to 130 feet. And as part of this application, HLF is going to grant an easement to the city, a right-of-way easement along the remainder of their frontage. And after all that's said and done, the new area for HLF is 3.81 acres with 522 feet of frontage. And it's that simple.
That's simple for a little piece of land.
Yeah.
31 by 77 by 54. Okay. Any questions of Mr. Sargent? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? Nope.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing. A report in your packet has 3.2 is to grant minor subdivision approval for the lot line adjustment between 126 and 134 Manchester Street, subject to the following precedent conditions, and those are outlined in 1 through 8. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that minor subdivision approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set with that one? Stay right there, I think, right? Yep. All right, we'll read item 8E into the agenda if we could.
Excuse me. Richard Bartlett Associates on behalf of St. Paul School and John and Susan Fournier. Why am I having trouble with that? Fournier, I knew that. Request minor subdivision approval for a lot line adjustment to annex 17 acres from 297 Pleasant Street to an adjacent parcel in the medium-density residential and open space residential districts. Staff recommends the application be determined complete, not a development of regional impact, and to open the public hearing.
So, you got a, again, upon determination of completeness component with this, so staff has found the application complete, not a development of regional impact. Someone like to make a motion to find the application complete? Open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Gotta find a more eloquent way to do that. All right, well, welcome to the table again. We'll ask you to state your name one more time for the record.
Mark Sargent, again, from Richard Bartlett and Associates. And is it me, or I can't get this to open?
It wasn't open on mine. I feel like it's just spinning the wheel of death.
Yeah.
Plans?
Like,
Plan?
That's not it.
Mine opened.
I just tried to open it and it's just spinning.
Oh, no.
That's not it.
8D has a problem opening, but 8E is.
8E's opening. My plans
Yeah.
are opening.
It's not opening on mine now.
Reload the website and try again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had 8D was the issue earlier.
It's the back half of a 30-acre parcel.
It's not a very
Yeah.
interesting plan anyway.
Ah, there it is. Okay. Got it.
Ta-da.
Jesus,
There it
it's
is.
long,
Okay.
Skinny parcel, huh? Holy cow.
So,
It's got a little bit of everything. A shed, a chicken coop.
Yeah, I looked at that house to buy it.
you may all recall this parcel. This at one time was going to be Concord Ortho.
Yep.
And it has been purchased by the Fourniers. And the Fourniers would like to sell a portion of the property to St. Paul's School. And so the Fournier property, it's located at 297 Pleasant Street. It's map 94, block 1, lot 5, has an area of 30.82 acres with 283 feet of frontage on Pleasant Street. The lot has a single-family home on it and extends all the way from Pleasant Street to the Turkey River. The St. Paul's property, which is located to the west of this parcel, and of course the St. Paul's campus essentially extends quite a ways to the west. This particular parcel's on map 94, block 1, lot 16, has an area of 21.7 acres and is currently a vacant parcel. Also fronts on the Turkey River, and you can see it all extends back to the Turkey River. The lot line adjustment is in the rear portion of the property. They want to annex 17 acres of the Fournier property to St. Paul's property, so this lot line right in here would disappear. The new lot area for the Fournier would be 13.82 acres, be no change in the frontage, and the new lot area for the St. Paul's would be 38.88 acres. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions from the board? Jeff?
I have one question. There's a lot of trails that show up on this map. Are these public access trails?
No.
They're not, okay.
I believe those are trails that were cut by the Websters when the Websters
yeah.
lived there.
Used to hunt turkeys
I'm
down
almost
there.
positive. Okay, sorry. Any other questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns regarding this application?
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We'll close the public hearing. Any other comments or questions from staff or the board? No?
Nope, there's
I
just
looked.
a
I
few
gave you a look.
waivers.
Okay. All right, so in our packet here, we've got 3.1 to grant the following waivers utilizing RSA 674-36-2N, Criteria 2, which is outlined, well, again, we'll look at the waivers individually. 12.035 for wetlands, 12.07 wetlands delineation, 12.083 topography, 12.085 for natural features, and 12.0823 usable land. Would someone like to make a motion to grant those waivers as outlined?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion's been made,
Second.
seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 3.2 is to grant a minor subdivision approval for the lot line adjustment to annex 17 acres from map 94, block 1, lot 5 to map 94, block 1, lot 16 at 296 Pleasant Street, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions noted below. Those are outlined in precedent conditions 1 through 7, subsequent conditions 1. Would someone like to make a motion to grant minor subdivision approval as outlined?
So moved.
Motion has been made
Second.
and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You are all set. Thank you. All right, let's read item 8F into the agenda if we could, into the record if we could, sorry.
Interchange development, request an amendment to the comprehensive development plan at Whitney Road. I believe we have a staff update.
All right,
Yep, so this is additional amendment. Portions of this were shown to you back in February. They've come back. It mostly addresses the development along Interchange Drive. Staff has concerns with the increase in number of curb cuts, the elimination of a large green space, and the applicant did submit a new plan this afternoon. We've not had an opportunity to look at that. They did provide site distances, which was something that we had questions about, but I just wanted to get feedback from the board and any discussions with the Rossios on this.
okay. Welcome back.
Good evening.
If you could state your names for the record.
Laurie Rossio with Interchange Development.
David Rossio with Interchange Development.
Okay.
Thank you for hearing us again. Sorry that it's so often, but this is the process. So I wanted to start with a little slideshow of where we are. How do I not do notes? Oh, there we go. Okay. So I just wanted to show you how the project looks right now. It's come a long way since maybe if you haven't been in the neighborhood, you can see that the city has already constructed the roundabout on Whitney Road and is now paving half of Route 4 for the large roundabout on Route 4 at Whitney Road. Unfortunately, temporarily, they have to pave over that center part of the roundabout so that they can move traffic to that side, and then they'll rip it up again for the actual plantings and concrete apron in the middle. So this gives you just a perspective of what's happening on the site at this point. We have the liquor store in the background, and further behind that is the Market Basket and Home Goods. And just a little close-up, you can see we've installed sidewalks, and the areas on the right side of the screen that just look like dirt, one of those is going to become Wendy's, and the other one is 4 to 8 Merchants Way that you approved a few months ago, which will have a service credit union, a Jersey Mike's, and a retail space. So with that, I want Dave to talk about our current CDP plan.
Thank you. By the way, did anyone have any questions about the photos?
That looks great. Congrats on getting it that far.
Thank you.
It's not all us. The city played a
city's
big
doing
part.
great.
Right. So I just want to make sure that everyone understood that this is not a site plan approval. As the board and staff are aware, development in the city of Concord's GWP district requires planning board approval for changes to the comprehensive development plan. We've done this several times in the past. Once to modify the CDP to accommodate the city's small roundabout, the one on Whitney Road, which was required for the mitigation of the Merchants Way, not required for the mitigation of Merchants Way development, but to allow for the future expansion of Whitney Road to the south. So nowadays we're frequently responding to the end user and tenant input. And we recently changed the CDP for the Wendy's and again for that 3-unit Jersey Mike's Service Credit Union building at 4 to 8 Merchants Way. So several months ago we suggested CDP changes on Interchange Drive in the south side of the plan during the 4 to 8 Merchants Way approvals. But at that time, the staff decided to limit the CDP changes to just the area immediately surrounding the 4 to 8 Merchants Way building. So for reference, the current approved CDP is included in the second page of the supplemental file, and that's what's shown here for tonight's meeting. So the question I guess you may want to ask is, why now? So what Laurie and I are doing is we're trying to stay ahead of the Market Basket opening, which will be this summer. And we're ready to curb and pave Interchange Drive, which is the southern drive there, intersects Whitney Road and then curves around to meet up with Merchants Way. So we've had conversations with Market Basket and TJX, who is the owner of the Home Goods. And they requested, and they would like to have another TJX store on this site. And that is a 21,000 square foot building or so. So that's one of the reasons we're chatting it up with you folks today. And the second, Concord Hospital has requested their building the urgent care, which is at the southernmost portion of the frontage on Whitney Road. They're requesting that their parking and entrance be on the north side of their building, which is slightly different from what was presented in the previous CDP. So to address these needs, a revised CDP plan was submitted to the planning staff on April 20th. We asked to meet with the staff to discuss the plan, and that letter or our request is in the supplemental submission included in your agenda this evening. However, we did not get any response from the city staff. And we believe some of the comments that were made are due to assumptions made by city staff without the benefit of communication that we invited. And we're willing to chat about those today. There are a couple of bullet points, and forgive me if I just sort of drone on, but it might make sense just to identify if you folks have a copy of the letter that was written by city staff. There are several bullet points, and I can address sort of a couple of quick ones, not to take too much of your time. One is, this is, by the way, in staff comment 1.2. I hope you folks all have a copy of that. The first one, the staff identifies that we relocates curb cuts and added 2 curb cuts on Interchange Drive, increasing from 2 to 4. I'd just like to make sure it's clear. These are not curb cuts onto a public road. These are accesses to a private road, Interchange Drive. Just want to make sure that that's understood. We've considered the planning staff's comments, and we have decided to eliminate the westernmost exit-only driveway closest to Whitney Road. Is there a way to highlight that? Yes.
There's a pointer here.
No pointer, but I can, maybe I'll just stand up.
Okay. Oh, the mouse? Oh, you see the mouse for me? Yeah. Can you see the mouse? I don't see the mouse, sorry.
I'll do this the easy way.
Okay.
Pointer is MIA.
That's okay, he can.
I'll be the pointer. We're talking about this access here. It's adjacent. Concord Hospital is, obviously, they need some access for ambulances, and the fire department of the city has requested some sort of circulation and access to get out here. So city staff said this is too close. So these folks have figured out a way that we can have the trucks and the ambulances exit the site that way. So the fire department should be satisfied with that access, and the front door is going to be on this corner of the property, and most of the parking will be on the north side. So the new plan, you can see how it's a sort of green area here. So you're toggling, I guess, between our new plan, which is suggesting, which will be green here, allowing them to have a dumpster and shipping access on that side of the building. And the previously submitted plan showed a right turnout driveway, which we've since eliminated.
I'm gonna hand this out.
Might make sense,
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah. This is,
Thank you.
trying to be responsive to the staff. We've made changes, and sorry that it's last minute, but just take us a little while. So you just take one fast.
So what is this?
This is amendments to the plan that we submitted in April in order to address the comments in the staff report.
So what you're holding is essentially a copy of what's up here on the screen right now that I was just pointing to. So what you folks are holding should show that westernmost access on Interchange Drive has been eliminated in order to satisfy the city's comments. And we've made sure that the truck access then, ambulance access, can be towards the north of that building. So retail space increases, this is another one of their comments, the second comment. Retail space increases from 10,100 square feet to 22,990 square feet and is reoriented to face Market Basket. We believe that this comment is based on a misunderstanding of the orientation of the large retail space front door. There were some handicap spaces which were shown on the previous plan on the east side of that large retail space. And the staff may have taken that to believe that that's where the main entrance to the retail space was. It's not the case. We plan on having the access, the people access to that space be on the northern side of the building. And in the plan that you folks are holding, we tried to sort of annotate that and make sure that there was a little dotted line showing where the front doors are. So it is our intention to have the front door and the parking be immediately adjacent to that on the north side of that building.
Do you want the pointer or something? 'Cause we
Yeah,
have no idea.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Laurie can point.
I
Watch
don't
out.
see anything.
Okay, so
There
this
you
is the large retail, all right? And one of the things that we're missing in this plan in terms of all of the uses is apparel. So we are gearing up for something that will sell apparel, whether it's underwear, socks, or tops, or bottoms.
Oh, that's good.
And you know, I could just standing here.
How about you at that?
I'm not as good with this as pointing, but,
Same thing with the cat.
there we go.
There you
Okay,
go.
so this building here, and the reason why it's long and skinny is all of these national retailers, they're designed to be in strip centers, and they are given very little frontage. So they learn to work with short lengths of frontage and deep buildings with loading docks. So the intent has always been to have the door on this side. But because TF Moran put in a few handicap spaces over on this side, staff interpreted that to be the entrance to the building. And so it's not meant to be the entrance to the building. It's right here. It's always here. Because the point of this little, I'm gonna call it a little triangle, is to be able to go from the restaurant to the retail to the services, you know, and back again. We don't need folks facing the home goods. So
Does that
anyway, moving on.
Clear up your question,
Yeah,
Chairman?
yeah, thank you.
Welcome. So that's just one of the comments that were made. Another one is, there's a comment which states elimination of the 4,000 square foot dental and eye care center and adds 2 retail spaces totaling 3,600 square feet. We intend to market one of the 3,600, by the way, there are 2 3,600 square foot spaces
Yeah, right here.
which are adjacent. We intend to market one of those to a medical office type use. However, we all agree, I believe we all agree, that the previously imposed covenants and restrictions on this development and this land have been eliminated. And the CDP is not intended to bind the interchange development to a specific subset of uses. But I believe instead to just permit marketing and development of uses allowed by right in the Gateway Performance District. That's our hope. The third comment, eliminates large green space formerly located east of the large retail space, replaced with a parking lot. Maybe you could just highlight that area.
That's this area right here.
Right. So that's an area which was formerly, was identified as green, and now that's needed for parking for this larger TJX store. Just so the board understands, Phase 1 and Phase 2, which would be all the retail-oriented development on this project. Maybe you just draw a line.
Yeah. This is the gateway zone, ends
Right.
here.
Pick it up someone's drink
And then
bottle.
this is industrially zoned. So
Right.
phase 1 and 2 is
All of that.
all the work above, in the gateway.
So Phase 1 and 2, we're at 54% max lot coverage. The GWP, the maximum lot coverage is 85%. So we're at 54% with the Phase 1 and 2. If we add Phase 3, which is the industrial component, we're at 63% maximum lot coverage, where the GWP requires 85%. So we fall well underneath that, and I believe we can satisfy this TJX store on our development. Fourth bullet point, eliminates the vehicular connection between Wendy's restaurant and the urgent care facility. You can highlight that.
It's right here.
That was a connection that was on the previous CDP. We have responded to the request by Wendy's as well as Concord Hospital, the urgent care, to eliminate that driving connection. That's a good idea.
So the idea is that if you don't have that connection, you can have a pedestrian connection from Whitney Road through into the center of the site. It's just one less crossing that they have to make. We don't feel that the connection vehicular-wise provides any advantage to the vehicles. There's very limited interaction between a Wendy's and an urgent care. And certainly we should be encouraging them to just walk from one to the other.
Let's assume that there's not
Right.
a lot of interaction
They
between
can
the
run
Wendy's
run
into
over
the
to
urgent
the urgent
care.
care. So, you know, they can certainly walk between the two.
Depends if
They
you
don't
get
have to
rings
drive.
with it.
Yeah,
So that's
a Frisbee or
that's our
whatever.
philosophy on it. I know Jeff has some feelings about it, and we'll be glad to talk to him about it if he wants to. So, but we'd like to eliminate that connection.
And I can quickly breeze through the other comments if you like here. I mean, like comment 2.1, I think it's actually addressed in one of the bullets. Comment 2.2, that is new. This identifies the one-way out driveway at the urgent care facility is too close to Whitney Road. We talked about that, that portion of this comment.
Yep,
We
right
did
there.
eliminate
Yep.
that. However, the second portion of that comment, it identifies that, says site plan regulations require 200-foot separation from an intersection with Collector Street. So we're all take care there. In addition, staff has concerns with the out-only drive, so we're all set there too. But is that the only way? I guess comment 2.2, I'm sorry, has been addressed in the previous bullet. 2.4, I think, is new, not addressed in the list of bullets. I'll just read it quickly. Staff has concerns with the location of the driveway entrance/exit for the parking for the large retail space. That's the second TJX store that we talked about earlier. That it is very close to the curve in the road. Please provide sightlines on the plans and show the proposed landscaping if this drive location is to remain.
Sorry. I'm trying to show you those.
I mentioned
Yeah,
before.
we had TF Brand take a look at that, and there's enough sight distance at each of the driveways.
Right. And we do expect, by the way, as I mentioned before, this isn't a site plan application. Landscaping and all of those sort of details will be considered when we eventually seek a site plan application or site plan approval.
One of the sight lines do go over this little area of landscaping that staff is referring to, and certainly when we get to site plan approval, we can make sure that we, don't have any bushes in that area. We only have either street trees or grass in that area.
I think that's about it. I mean, the other comments, 2.5 all the way through to 3.4, I think have been addressed, or they're just sort of minor issues like housekeeping issues on the plan, which have been addressed in the color copy that you folks are holding. But we are willing to chat it up with you about that if you like.
So at this time, we are seeking approval from the board for the CDP so that we can move forward with the curb cuts on Interchange Drive and finish the top coat for that
So
road.
just to be clear, this is the first time we're seeing this.
Well-
And this is the first time staff seeing it as well.
The changes are all addressing the comments that staff
Yeah.
asked for.
Yeah.
And you actually did see it back in February, and we cut off that conversation.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get back to it so
Yeah.
we can, again, stay ahead of the construction.
Right, and the building locations, that this is all, the plan that you're holding is, the changes are minor.
Right.
Compared to the one that was submitted. Laurie can even toggle between the two.
So that's the one we submitted in April.
Yep.
For your approval, and so the changes are minor. Yeah, just wanted to walk you through them.
Right, and we invite any questions of the board.
Okay. Heather, I know you had a question.
Do you want to respond first, or would you like me to respond?
You can respond.
Okay. We have had, and last time you looked at it, and we continue to have some significant concerns with the circulation and the layout of this plan. I think there's this is not a plan review meeting. This is a planning board meeting. So this is not the location, this is not the venue for you and us to communicate about what we may or may not have understood or how. I mean, the appropriate is for you guys to have submitted a response letter saying this is how we've addressed your comments, and then you come back next month.
You posted
Because
it
we've
on
never,
Friday.
excuse me, we've never seen this plan, and we haven't had a chance to review this with regard to all of the other aspects of the plan that we previously had some issues with. I just want to point out that this plan has slowly become exactly what we were trying to avoid. It is a bunch of buildings surrounded by parking. It's exactly, with every single increment, it's become less and less what it initially was intended to be. This plan is, at this point, pretty useless. As she said, you know, we keep coming back because we're not doing anything that we originally was a part of the original concept. To talk about that green space in the context of lot coverage seems to me just incredibly disingenuous. It was not about lot coverage. That was about people space, green space, public space. We would not contend that you don't have enough lot coverage or whatever on the site. It was never about that. And to discount the concept that this was about a public space, an open space, and just say, well, we need it for parking and we think we can manage it within the context of the zoning code is just to completely obfuscate the point of what the original plan was intended to do. So I can appreciate that you're trying to create these pedestrian connections, but you've so totally missed the point of the original plan to create this pedestrian-oriented, buildings close to each other space. So I just think we need to start from the beginning of what was the original intent of the original plan. And you've pointed out Market Basket didn't want this, Market Basket didn't want that. I just want the board to be aware, and if that's the choice we're making, and it is a choice that we've consistently made, that we're just sort of, you know, this is a tail wagging the dog kind of situation. The only aspect of this plan that remains, which is not part of any site plan phase that is approved yet, is this tiny little restaurant space. And I fully expect that to disappear when they come in for the review of that piece of the plan. I don't expect that to stay there, other than the fact that it may stay there because Market Basket doesn't want a building there. So it'll probably turn into parking or something like that. So it just every single step of the way, it's been decimated. So I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have started.
Yeah, no. I think staff is a little frustrated. I mean, you did come before in February and there was a lot of comments, that's why it was tabled, and not a single thing was addressed. Staff is extremely busy. We just got a new associate engineer 2 days ago, or yesterday. So to expect us to review a plan, by saying housekeeping items, they didn't update any of the zoning table before submitted to it until.
We did take care of that now.
I know, but that should have been in the original. Like, it's very frustrating that we get plans that you're saying, well, we have made assumptions based on where TF Moran put the handicap spaces where they shouldn't have put them. Well, they shouldn't have put them there if that's not what they were going to be. So it's difficult for us to review it, and I think it's just frustrating, as you can tell from Heather's response, is every time we get something, it's just like we're completely reviewing a whole new plan, and it's sort of like the purpose of a CDP is to set groundworks and you grow from there instead of just coming, and it just seems to be an administrative thing now that we're doing, is every time you're going to come in with a new site plan, yes, this is not a site plan review, but your site plan should be based on what we agreed to a year and a half ago or 2 years ago when the board approved the CDP. And instead of every time a new building coming in, changing everything, we've sort of lost what the purpose of a CDP is. I can see slightly changing a building, like shifting it or making it a different size, that's one thing, but the green space, I mean, that is a huge component that we definitely did talk about that. So I think that's, yes, I don't want to, I feel like I'm getting blamed because we didn't have a meeting, but there should not have been a meeting between an application being submitted and the planning board to redesign the site to make a decision that we would be happy with. It should have happened to a point where we met before the application was submitted, reviewed it, and then had something that was submitted that we could all agree with, and then go before the planning board. Because I don't think if we had met a week or two ago, we would have come to a solution that we would still feel comfortable with presenting to the board. So we're staff level, it's up to the planning board, so we're putting our opinions out there, it's up to the board to make these decisions. So I would like to hear your comments.
Well, from a process perspective, we don't see CDPs come back to us. I mean, we go through the initial process, and then the plan takes over, and then, you know, we see building plans and we see things come into the process. But you guys, to my knowledge, are the first folks that have come back repeatedly with a CDP with changes every time. So I can sense the frustration from the staff perspective, but I'm just looking at it, again, we look at the plans last week, so, you know, Beth told me that I think it came in at 2 or 3 o'clock this afternoon. I mean, we can't do that. I mean, you gotta have, staff's gotta have the ability to look at it and absorb it and create a comprehensive review for us to then look at and see. You know, looks fine to me. I mean, I see, you know, the changes that were made, but I do understand staff's concerns that, you know, this isn't an ongoing process every time a new building gets developed or proposed, the CDP changes, and that's frustrating on their side. I can sense it from there. So from a design perspective and from a review perspective, you know, I want you to fill up the area with as much business as you can put into it. I mean, I understand the process of X amount of acreage, X amount of coverage, and X amount of businesses to make it a worthwhile project. So I get that, and I understand that.
That would have been multi-story buildings.
And I get that. Do you have a question?
Well, I just had a question. Is the purpose of a CDP, is it to come back to the planning board as things change? So that's my confusion.
So the CDP is supposed to, especially when you have a site this large, to say, this is, you know, to make sure that the whole project as a whole is a direction that the city wants to go, and that it's something that you approve of. You know, when we were originally looking at this site, there was a bunch of buildings clustered close together, there was plaza space, there was a tiny area, and we understood that there would be some out parcels where there might be things on the outskirts, but there was a tiny area that was there, that was sort of an interconnected, lovely little space. And as this plan has developed, what you're, you know, the parking lot that you're looking at in the middle of Merchants Way is where that was. And so the buildings have slowly drifted. And I know why, but when you have you know, maybe a big development firm that has connections in an industry, or can promote a concept and attract people to it that want to be there in this space that you've created, you know, then you can say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and you do it. You know, but each piece has been like piecemeal coming in, so that they've had to change it every single step of the way. They don't know who's coming in next, and they don't have control over what that next person is going to want. So they are not in control of creating the vision that they presented to us. And that's just the reality of the situation, you know, for this project. So they have no control. This is the only way that they can do it. And so that's what's happened. You know, normally we've got other projects where we don't assume, when they come to us with this great concept, that every step of the way, when they get a new tenant, the whole project is going to change, because they have no control over it. You know, we assume that they're going to build what they show us. That's what the CDP is for. You know, all the plans that we've looked at for, like, the mall or the Manchester Street development, or even up on, you know, down the road from them, we've looked at these huge, massive, comprehensive plans, and we expect that's what they're going to give us. That's what the CDP is for. But that is not what was able to happen here. Does that help clarify a little bit? I mean,
is that your understanding of what the CDP is?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, not from the get-go. There's no way we could have predicted what we were gonna do back how many years ago.
We explained to them very clearly.
I just wanna mention exit 13, you're about to get a gas station there. That was not part of the plan. So they're
submitted
modifying
anything
their
to us
plan
yet.
as they go along.
Nothing has been submitted to us.
Heather,
There's been
please,
no
Heather,
submission to the
please,
city for that.
Heather, please, enough.
You gotta go where the market takes you. We're not gonna build a building without a tenant lined up. That doesn't make any financial sense. We don't want it to fail. These are things that are going to succeed in this location. And we think we've met all the requirements. We've provided the pedestrian connectivity. That has been one of the things that you talked about. Yes, it's not 3-story buildings. It's not residential. We talked about that from the get-go. We're surrounded, well, not surrounded, we are surrounding an incinerator. So we've seen the plans for what might be coming down Whitney Road. They look great. Maybe gonna get some housing down there, and it's all gonna work together. So we would like you to consider this plan so that we can just put in the curb cuts.
Suzanne?
So I guess at the get-go, there was a concept that was supported by the planning board and the staff. And one would think that that concept is the overriding theme of this development, specifically so it doesn't look like what everyone wanted to avoid. So as you're moving forward, there are ways to change it, but to lose that concept of more connectivity, more open space, more gathering places, you are diluting the purpose of the original intent. And so I sense, I get the frustration, but that doesn't mean it's wrong, because why do we have these CDPs? Why do we have them if we're gonna just dilute them so they don't make any sense?
We don't have a quote in front of us, but if you look at what the CDP is supposed to do, it's supposed to tell you where the road's gonna go, so that we're not ripping up roads as we go along. Where's the water and the sewer gonna go? Where's the electricity gonna go? Those are the things that are supposed to be in the CDP, and none of those things have changed. It doesn't say you have to show where the buildings are gonna be, and they have to stay there.
No,
It
I
doesn't say
understand that, but the concept of what Heather was talking about has disappeared based on the development, but isn't there some way where you can compromise and still get what you want, but don't lose sight of the original intent, which was to have more connected green spaces, pedestrians, so it doesn't look like anything different. And I think that was what the planning staff and the planning board was kind of excited about, that this wasn't gonna be the way it's turning out to be. And there might still be a way to, you know, instead of just cherry picking, just kind of thinking again of like, okay, how is this gonna fit and not lose that initial intent?
So, do you have a question?
I
Jeff?
just comment.
So before you do, the issue that you need to get resolved is interchange development, the curb cuts on interchange development and paving that space.
Interchange
And if
drive.
interchange drive, sorry. Interchange development, interchange drive. So there's, on the proposed, on the one that's in our packet, the driveway that comes out of Market Basket, comes down Interchange Drive, there's the first curb cut on the right, and then it looks like there's a second curb cut on the right, and then it comes out to the main road. On the new one, there's that same first one, a new kind of second one into the new buildings there, and then the third one. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So if I could not talk about parking, not talk about building situations, not talk about green space, but talk about parking, talk about curb cuts and paving that road. That's what you need to do right now, right?
That's true.
Right.
So if we could isolate that, isolate our concerns and comments, I mean, if, I don't have, you know, I don't know if there's any concerns with the curb cuts, and again, I'm sensitive to staff not reviewing it. I don't like to look at things and approve things until staff's weighed in, but I know where staff's head's at. I think I can figure out what the view is gonna be. I just wanna make sure that if there's that third curb cut that addresses the buildings in the back, it's done in the right context, for the right reasons. It's for the development of those three buildings, and it's gonna help in the sense of being able to get a truck in there and turn it around, put it into the docks. I saw somebody's hand,
Yeah.
Jeff. Yep.
So you're going exactly where I was. A couple different things. One, this is a public hearing, and if plans are submitted at 2:00 in the afternoon, the public has not had a
Absolutely.
chance to review that.
Yep,
And I
yep.
think that's
Yep.
the first problem that really kind of upsets me, that this is being thrown in front at the last minute. We're being expected to make a decision tonight, and the public hasn't even had a chance to look at this. Second is, you're asking us to approve driveway locations. I won't call them curb cut, I'll call them driveways, which then ties us to a site plan, which we have no idea how it's really gonna be developed. We have no idea if truck turns, other things are gonna work at these driveways. To me, pave the road, put the curb in like any other road in the city, and if you wanna come back at the development, you move the curb, you build the driveway later. I think trying to get us to approve these driveway cuts tonight with not all the information is wrong. Driveways are not the roads, as you said, which are part of the comprehensive plan. Driveways are part of the site plan approval process off that road. And so I would not support at this point, this going any forward with this plan till that's further evaluated.
Hang on, I think I saw Teresa as well. Teresa? You gotta pull way up. There you go.
I guess I'm concerned and confused about this. So, to me, if we go back to the way you were doing it originally, means that what's going on now would have to change. And you're in the middle of construction.
Right, the point would be that we don't build any of the curb openings along
Right.
Interchange Drive, and we have to rip it up, which is, in our opinion, a waste of resources. It's literally throwing pavement and curbing away, and that just doesn't make sense. It's just an opening. And in particular, I'll just point to one that's kind of important here. This one here hasn't changed in any of the plans, this one right here. It would be lovely to put it in so that we can not only build that driveway, we can also build the little piece of sidewalk that connects from this bus stop that we built over to the Market Basket. It honestly should have been part of phase one, and it didn't get in there. So at a minimum, it would be really nice to at least put that one in. The other ones, we reduced it down to 3, one being a truck access. So, good.
It's just so the board understands, it's a worse job to put curbing in and then decide to cut a driveway in later.
Yeah.
It's a better job to put the curbing in when you're doing the initial paving to the binder course and the finished paving.
Yeah, we should point out, these are all granite curbs. These aren't concrete. This is granite. It's not Cape Cod berm. It's granite curbing.
So all set, Chris, are all set, Teresa? Any other questions, comments? Heather?
I just wanted to what Jeff was saying and also to what Rich was saying. I think there's, what I would like to impress on the board and the Rossios is that, as Suzanne, you were saying, there was an intent and a design intent that continues to get eroded. Most importantly, I would like for you both to understand that, and I hope that you do, but when you're presenting and you're talking about the plan, what comes across is none of that. And I get the sense from you that you're just completely disregarding those conversations. Like when you talk about that green space as lot coverage and you don't need it, like we had so many conversations. And just let me finish. When we originally talked about the CDP, I told you guys that we included this requirement for the CDP because we didn't have regulations in place yet to create the type of development that we really wanted. And so the CDP was a way for the board to see a type of development that they would support because we didn't have the regulations in place yet. So like I specifically directly told both of you that the whole purpose of this CDP was to make so that you could give us an understanding of the type of development that you wanted to create. Those principles translate into circulation and design decisions. And so some of these design decisions are really specifically about access and circulation, not about the degradation of some ideal concept, but like there are real circulation concerns that we have here about the layout that, aside, Richard, Chairman, you were saying, I think I know what staff's gonna say. Well, aside from all of the issues about, we've lost this pedestrian space, now it's wholly vehicular oriented, there are some vehicular circulation problems that we see here with how these spaces are supposed to be used. So I think continuing those conversations and getting feedback from, I don't know, having a conversation about that would be helpful. I mean, do you agree in terms of the curb cuts and the circulation?
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the Rossios have made their point. I feel like we're almost at a standstill between staff and the Rossios. And I think
so you don't think that there is a solution with the circulation issues in this part of the site? I mean, we'd have to look at it more,
Yeah.
but that's my question. Like, are there changes that could be made in terms of access and connections that would make this make more sense and be more logical? And I think that's what I don't know the answer to. Because whether it's a curb cut on a public road or a private road, the access and the safety standards are the same. And this is a busy road. I mean, it was not built as a small street. It was built for trucks. and heavy traffic. So the safety concerns would be the same in terms of circulation and access.
Can I suggest a
Yes. Yeah.
compromise? What if we were to go ahead and build the driveways in that location at our risk? So that when we come back and we do site plan approvals, if you end up moving the driveway, then we're gonna have to rebuild it. Not that we're gonna want to, we're obviously gonna try to make something work with those driveways in those locations. But frankly, there's only so many places to put driveways, so hopefully we'll get a couple of them right, if not all of them in the right spot. So that's.
2 out of 3?
Right, we could just say,
2 out of
give us
3
the
would be-
approval to change phase 1 to reflect those driveway locations and not necessarily this CDP. That's why we're coming before you, is just simply to put in those openings.
Thoughts?
I'm not sure that we're comfortable with that, honestly, and I don't see how what Ms. Rossio is suggesting is any different from what, you know, Jeff suggested with just put the curb in. You know, it's, and then reroute it later if you need to. This is why it's a challenge when you get something at the last minute, like, we don't know what to do right now.
So
Susan?
I can kind of see where Heather's going with this, because the overall plan, some of it remained the same, but now that there've been all these changes, that plan might have to be tweaked as well. Because it does appear that there's things happening because of the additions that might not have been the intent at the beginning. There might be more conflicts. I mean, you're kind of doing it piecemeal rather than an overall
hard, yeah.
plan. And I think it's very difficult to evaluate that with not enough notice for us to make the decision, even though they're just curb cuts. But I think there has to be some.
But I mean,
Well, it's evaluate, but it's evaluate and then reevaluate and then reevaluate, you know, another time. I mean, you're not just looking at it once, you're looking at it again in its entirety. Everything from, you know, from Hoyt Road all the way, you know, all the way in, trying to figure out what the traffic patterns are gonna be.
Right, but I think within the site itself, with some of those additions
Yep.
and changes
Yep.
and the more development, that there might be some better solutions to how the circulation with vehicular or pedestrian works within that space. I'm only surmising, because, I mean, someone really has to take a look at this.
Right, understand it. Councilor Pierce?
This is a good conversation. There's a couple of things. I'd like to move this along and get it off square one. Number one, I would like to make a motion that we allow the Rossios to make their curb cuts at this time and move them as needed. And I would also like to see a date certain when they can meet with staff to iron this out. I don't know if those are appropriate, but it would need a second.
I'll
Just to-
second you.
Okay. Jeff?
My only concern is what Ms. Rossio just said. You let us build those at our risk and we'll make them fit. So what does that mean? Does that mean we're gonna be back here with a plan in a month that is shoehorned to fit those driveways because they don't wanna make them, and we're talking about circulation issues again, pedestrian access again? I really do not think it's prudent to put these curb cuts in and somewhat hamstring it. I think it needs to be thought out a little bit more. Staff needs a better chance to look at this in terms of parking, circulation, truck access, whatnot, and an entire plan looked at, because this is gonna be that whole side now. And we got theoretically, one chance to get it right if they're
In
gonna start
theory, I
building.
mean, I don't wanna be a hamstring to letting them figure out the right person to come in. If a business comes in and says,
I
I want
agree.
this 27,000, I want this 3, and I want this 3, but I want it turned this way, and I don't want the driveway where you've got it, I want it over here.
Right.
They're gonna change it if it's the right
Right.
person. They're gonna absorb the cost, they're gonna put the curbs in, fill it in, and change it. So if we can give them the ability to move forward and get the other chance to get out of Market Basket, which is what's gonna be there now. Remember, these are gonna be curb cuts to dirt, and there's gonna be nothing in there for however long it takes for them to do that development. So I'm inclined to support that, to move things along, but I understand your concerns with inside the development. I get it 100%, and I think you're absolutely right on track. But again, they'll come back with a fourth or fifth or sixth revision to the CDP, and then plans to put the buildings in based on the clients that they get.
I mean,
I
the other
get
thing-
it, but
the other
we're
thing
not
we're not
designing,
looking
we're not
at is-
designing Main Street either, we're designing.
Right, understood, but the other thing we haven't looked at is traffic implications.
Yes.
You know, you're putting curb cuts here, sizes of buildings from changed. I mentioned it even last time around, that a new traffic study needs to be looked at if there's a significant change from one type of use to another that might be a higher generator or increased space, because now we've taken out green space, put a much bigger proposed over there, and that all ties to this. Because if more traffic comes out there, there's more potential for operational and safety issues on that driveway that maybe weren't there
So,
originally.
you're a traffic guy, do you see any sightline issues on this? If this is an Amazon facility in the back here?
It's quite possible, depending on landscape. It's, without a landscaping, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
Right now, if I looked around the corner, yeah, that line looking left coming out of that main drive
Is it
could look
tight?
right across a landscaping area.
Yeah.
Or depending on how they relay it out, that one looks a little different on the corner. Maybe it's hard to tell from here. If the cars suddenly move closer to the roadway, right to the back of the sidewalk,
Yep.
because they want to put the parking wrapped around now, that's definitely a sightline issue.
Yep.
You can't change that. It's not like you can say we're gonna put a 2-foot high shrub instead of an SUV parked there or a van. That's an issue.
Yep.
And so, like I said, I'm not comfortable that this plan is developed enough that a decision should be made. A driveway is a site plan item, not a CDP, in terms of getting approval from us to go build it.
That's true. Kira?
Yeah, I'm finding everything Jeff says very persuasive, and I'm not feeling comfortable approving.
All right, any other comments, questions?
Is it appropriate to respond?
Sure, yep.
With respect to the timing of this, to address Mr. Santa Cruz's comment, it wouldn't be next month. The Concord Hospital folks were just sort of starting their site plan approval process, the site design for that. So that won't be until this winter sometime. The other uses, I would expect similarly. We have months here before we'll be going back to you folks, and we can communicate with the planning staff in those months. The purpose of this is really just to make sure that we can satisfy market basket opening and get that curbing and paving taken care of. I think it's appropriate that we do that at our own risk. Laurie had a comment regarding traffic?
Yeah, there was a traffic study update submitted as part of the original package, which staff reviewed, and the only thing they asked about was the analysis, which backed up the conclusion that was already in the traffic report, and we did provide that.
Okay, it wasn't in the package I saw.
I have a question. Did I understand you correctly that you're hoping Market Basket or Demoulas will open in September?
Yes,
And is the liquor store open now? It looks to, but when's that opening?
they're waiting to get closer to when the market basket opens.
And if I understand this correctly, you need to do something before those two stores open?
Right, you have to top coat the pavement.
Right,
And
right.
so you don't put in the curb. It's ideally you have all the curbs put in when you put in the pavement goes up to the curbs. We don't have that top coat in yet because we don't have the curbs in yet on Interchange Drive.
So if I understand this, you've basically got 3 months to get it together.
They like to do it a little bit ahead of time with
Yeah.
the striping and you got the landscaping.
Right,
You want to make it look neat.
Right,
So,
you want a
know,
good opening.
Yes, we have
I
maybe two.
I
so-
guess my question to the board and the staff is, I mean, I was out there at the end of last week, and I thought, holy cow, this is pretty exciting. And if I live in that neck of the woods, I would say it's really exciting, because you don't have to drive all the way into Concord. But I guess my question to everybody is, by holding this up to the board meeting in June, what does that do to your opening of your anchor tenants, your two major anchor tenants in September? And I don't know the answer to that, but that is what, there are a number of things on this that concern me. But really, when I see, we want tax revenue, and what?
Thank you.
Well, we do. I mean, I think about what, well, yeah, you do. I mean, I'd rather pay less taxes, but.
We do too.
So, I look at this from an economic perspective too, is what are we doing by putting this off to basically get less tax money for Earl to spend? So my question is really one of timing. I'm not gonna go into the other issues I've got with this, but that's really one of the key
But
issues.
I think that you could top coat the whole thing now and do the whole thing, curb the whole thing, and then you'd have to come in and break it out to put them in the right spots, which is the two options. David?
I just, more, excuse me, more a statement than anything else for you, in that I don't have my colleagues' expertise in a lot of these areas. I rely on Heather and Beth and Sam, you know, and their opinion, so that I don't want you to feel that this side of the table is being obstructionist, but, you know, we have to rely on their opinions to us. And so when plans come and we can't communicate with them, because I arrived at 6:30 tonight and I'm seeing this for the first time. I just want you to understand in my thought process that those three over there on that side of the table are the ones that determine. So I think that you really need to communicate with them first. And so that when we sit here together, I have their thoughts in my vote. Okay, and that's just a process thing.
I understand.
Any other comments or questions?
I just,
Yeah,
sorry, just
yes.
quick. So Jeff, the traffic thing is in the supplemental. If you click on supplemental, it's a whole packet of information from them. The additional information came in today, but the original one that Karen reviewed is in that under supplemental.
Can we suggest another option?
Yep.
Going along a little bit along the lines of what Councilor Pierce suggested, that we table this to next month and we have a date certain that we meet with staff, because honestly, we tried 5 times. So we need a date, and we'd be glad to come in and meet with the staff over this.
That's fine with me, if that gets us, well, you should have mentioned that,
I didn't
the
want
first start, you didn't
I'm
want to
trying to
start with
throw
that?
people
You
under
didn't
the
want to
bus.
lead with
I
that?
know that
Everybody in the
they're busy.
audience
Rich,
wishes
Rich,
that
I
you
know
lead
that.
with
I'm
that.
sorry. They're busy.
I'm
They're
sorry,
busy.
that's not appropriate.
They're
That is
busy.
not appropriate.
They're just-
We
yeah.
have been very responsive, and we feel the exact same way, that we have made comments that continue to not be addressed. So I don't think that starting with, this is staff's fault, is a great foot to start off on to resolve these issues.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that. I meant that there needs to be some discussion, obviously,
Yes,
whether
we just
whether
need a
it's,
date.
you know, it's pushed along discussion, or with the understanding that we got a date,
Yep.
Okay, no, are we okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. Why don't we make a motion to table?
So moved.
There's a motion.
Oh, there's a motion on the table, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, we had a motion on the table, to allow for the approval of the interchange drive paving and curb cuts as it sits,
And
correct?
to have
With
a
the
date
three,
certain.
with the three curb cuts that they're proposing on the
Yes.
new revised plan, and a date certain to meet.
Yes.
So that's your
That was the
motion.
motion and second, and we should.
We had a second,
Have a
we had
vote.
a bunch of discussion and conversation about
Yeah.
it. David, did you have?
No,
I saw your
I'm
hand,
done.
sorry. So we got a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so the motion carries, but I still want to have some conversation regarding.
Wait, what was the vote on that?
No, let's,
I think it was a tie.
I voted yes.
I voted yes.
4-3.
You want them to, you
the
understand?
curb cut.
They're gonna
They're
build,
gonna go forward with the
Yeah.
as you
Yes.
just said.
Okay.
They're gonna go forward with the paving. As you said, you're at risk
Right.
on the curb cuts. That burden falls on you, not
Just
on us.
hands, just for hands, just approval was yay, and nays were the three nays? Suzanne?
Yes.
Yes, nay. Okay, so the motion carries to allow for pavement and curb cuts, and again, with the understanding that if you come back with a plan, I don't, to Jeff's point, I don't want to see a shoehorn just to make it work, and we'll hold you to it on that. But again, I want to make sure we don't hold you up, but I want to make sure that staff's looking at it as well and saying that they've got concerns, and I'm really concerned that they haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
Makes sense, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Doesn't really make a difference. The only difference was closing one of those curb cuts. That's the only change of what
Yeah.
came today.
Yeah.
So we still have concerns,
Yeah,
but
yeah, so there's still concerns with the traffic.
Understood.
And again, I'm just looking at it, I don't care about what's happening inside the site, I just want to be able to to finish the outside
Yeah,
ring. So-
appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So dates, yeah, we'll have staff follow up with us on the dates as well. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, guys. Okay, so let's move on. 8G is the next item on our agenda. We could read that into the record.
So North Point Engineering, on behalf of JTA Realty, requests major site plan approval to construct a commercial parking lot and conditional use permit for disturbance of a wetland buffer at 96 Hall Street in the Opportunity Corridor Performance District. This is a major site plan. It normally would be a 2-month process. The applicant has requested a waiver to have the public hearing and the determination of completeness all in one meeting. Staff does not oppose to this because it's a pretty straightforward project. So we recommend that it be determined complete, not a development of regional impact, to grant the waiver and to open the public hearing.
Okay, if notice has been sent, so public's been noticed?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, so we've got a determination of completeness component, not a development of regional impact. Can we address the waiver right in the get-go here on the first thing?
That's right, in the beginning of your
And,
packet.
and to recognize the waiver to hold the public hearing on the same night as we determine the application complete. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and waive the public hearing notice?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So let's get a quick staff update on this and welcome whoever up to the table if you want to come up.
I don't really, sorry, I'm
really-
still
it's
coming
really
down off of that.
straightforward.
It's a straightforward, it's a parking lot.
It's a parking lot. It's very straightforward.
I believe there are some recommendations from ADR that they have taken issue with, and staff understands those concerns that they have regarding the extension of adding street trees along the adjacent parcel, which they don't have ownership of. And staff had recommended that they add a landscape island, which I believe they take issue with. But otherwise, the impacts to the wetland buffer, they went before Conservation Commission last week, and Conservation Commission had no concerns with the CUP for stormwater treatment within the buffer.
Okay. Welcome to the table. If you guys could state your names for the record.
Ian McGregor, project engineer, North Point Engineering.
Jeff Lewis from North Point Engineering. Once again, I'm also a member of the Conservation Commission, and I had recused myself from this item last week when it was discussed before the commission. You want to just share?
Yeah, I was going to say we also have Sharon Drake from Metro Treatment with us tonight. She's the program director. So if you have any usage questions, they can be Sharon. Hopefully can answer those. So I'd like to start off by just showing the location of the project. The parcel we're looking at is outlined in red. On this particular map, you can see a yellow lot line going through the parcel. That lot line adjustment, I believe, was recorded today. So the lot line, the parcel in question is the one outlined in red. This is on the south end of Hall Street. That's Reed Park, just before I-93 on the lower right-hand area. And then the Best Western across the street. Those are kind of the big landmarks nearby. So we're seeking to construct a 50-space parking lot. We have kind of a conceptual rendering. The parking lot is associated with the needs of Metro Treatment Center, who is exceeding their current parking. The parking access to the new area will be done internally. The parking is being constructed on a former residential property. The driveway access to that former residence is going to be closed and replaced with granite curb and sidewalk to match the existing area. To facilitate the movement, the existing dumpster location needs to be relocated to the lower left hand of the existing parking lot, eliminating 2 of the parking spaces. Those parking spaces, the property owner at the southern abutting property, that's 100 Hall Street, is allowing construction of 2 additional parking spaces to replace what the dumpster is taking out, so there's no net change in parking on the 100 Hall Street property. In addition to the construction of the parking area, stormwater is also going to be managed on site. We're seeking a conditional use permit to disturb the wetland buffer, approximately 6,500 square feet of wetland buffer for the location of our wetland, or our stormwater treatment. The wetland buffer in that area had previously been maintained as a mowed grass area, and we're replacing it with only the stormwater management facilities. So no pavement will be located within that wetland buffer. For all intents, it will be continue to be used as a mowed grassed area. Along with our conditional use permit for the stormwater management, we're also seeking a waiver for relief from the 4-foot requirement for stormwater infiltration. We were speaking with engineering as well as staff this morning and submitted a waiver in accordance with that. I have a copy of it, and if anybody would like to see that. I don't know if you were able to read that this
I did,
today?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, I was going to mention that during my staff update. I forgot to, but yeah, I do have that.
And I think the only comments we had with all of the feedback we received from architectural review as well as staff and planning board were regarding the internal landscaping requirements or requests. The internally landscaped areas were outside of the requirement to put in a landscaped island in the parking area. So it's our preference to not have to meet that requirement and go, above and beyond what the ordinances state. Again, it was also asked that we show fire truck movements in the parking lot to ensure that even with a full parking area, a fire engine can make a full exit without having to back up from the parking area. And that exhibit, the fire truck does run over what is currently the painted parking area. So it would make the turning movements more difficult and most likely lose parking spaces if that landscaping requirement were put in place. I can't think, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I don't think so. I guess I'll just say, we know that there's some comments regarding landscaping. I know Suzanne's going to say it on the landscape architect stamp on the plan, but it was.
I didn't even notice that.
Matt Ruthier did do this planting plan for us, and we are willing to modify it for the staff recommendations and the architectural design review regulations. What Ian alluded to was there is no requirement for us on this parking lot to have internal landscaping. We know the staff has recommended that we provide at least one island for internal landscaping. So if the board feels that that's necessary, we can do that. We'll have to lose a couple spaces to do it, so it won't be the end of the world. But we are not asking for any waiver. We do comply with the site plan regulations as presented. One of the other items that they requested was that we add some street trees on the 100 Hall Street property, which is really not part of this application, aside from the owner is allowing us, it's a different property owner, they are allowing us to have cross access through here, so there will be a cross access easement, but right now we have no permission from them to install trees there, so we would prefer to not be forced to do that. We're happy to supplement with additional trees along the frontage that we can control with this application. That's basically it. I think the rest of the comments we received are all things we think we can handle, provided we get the drainage waiver. They are ready to build this, so they're a little bit behind schedule. They have a contractor lined up, which is why they asked us to see if we get this through in one meeting so they can move forward. That's it. And Sharon's here if there's any questions about the operation.
Why so much parking? It doesn't seem like that. It seems like an awful lot of parking for the small building.
Yeah, well, they exceed the. You want to come answer that? They need it. They're exceeding their space right now, and they have the ability to provide more services there, essentially. So they're anticipating greater need, basically.
Yeah, so we have.
Sorry, if you could just state your name for the record.
Sorry, Sharon Drake. I'm the program director for Concord Metro Treatment Center.
Okay.
We have currently 22 employees, so that's a lot of the spots that we currently even have in our lot. When I come in at 4:30 in the morning, there's usually 4 cars already of patients waiting in our parking lot, and so when the staff start to come in, there's no spots for them. So they're parking in other locations, parking out on the street, going out later and moving their cars, and it's just too dark to do that. It's not safe for my staff, it's not safe for our patients. So our parking lot fills up pretty quick. We have about 560 patients right now. We have the capacity for 800, approval for 800, so there's a lot more need, unfortunately, coming our way probably.
Unfortunately.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's very sad.
thank you. Questions, Suzanne?
So, as I'm looking at the parking lot, it almost kind of, I mean, without seeing it striped, it kind of looks like a free-for-all, because there is no.
It's striped.
Okay, no, but I'm saying like, but the parking is, it's hard to see exactly where the parking, there's no parking lines, which is usually something we can look at, but there's nothing separating the, it appears that there's parking on all four sides. Or am I not reading that
Are you
right?
talking about the proposed parking lot?
Yeah,
There's, I mean, there's striping on there, can you not? Oh.
I'm not looking at that. I'm
Page
looking-
3 of the plans.
I'm looking at the planting plan.
I was show parking spaces on the
Did you
planting
not put the
plan.
lines on the planting plan? No, but none of the plans have the striping
Yeah,
on it that
sheet
I'm
3.
looking at. Am I?
Right here.
They don't?
No, I'm looking at, I'm
The
looking at
site
grading and
plan.
drainage plan.
I believe
I
that's
don't see
sheet
anything
4.
You want to see site plan.
Okay,
Three of
so,
them-
yeah,
three of
so it's
11.
all four sides,
Yeah.
which makes me think, and in the middle, why can't you have some planting in those spaces instead of stripe?
We can, we absolutely can. We're just not required to. The site plan regulations don't require us to unless we're over 50 spaces, right? So we can do that.
Well, I think because it's such a big open space, the whole point of the planting in a parking lot is to mitigate the heat island effect. And I'm so glad that the staff saw that there were sugar maples, which obviously should be replaced. But I think that there would be room for that, for good points. And the only other thing that I can't see a north arrow. Is that your?
I think that was a comment from
That was
staff
a
as
comment from
well.
staff. We got
Which
it.
is so unusual. No, because I always like to see where the sun is coming from the west, and then I looked up there, and I'm like, I'm looking, unless your logo is the north arrow, which it's not.
You know where Hall Street is? It runs north-south, Suzanne. It's
No,
north
no.
and south.
So anyway, let's see.
We talked to the landscape
And,
architect.
and
we do that.
you call your shrub a perennial, it's not. And that would be another thing you might wanna,
I have forwarded all of the comments to my landscape architect, and he
oh,
will
I
be
thought you
addressing
did
all.
it.
No. It's one of your licensed people who did it, so, you know.
Oh,
they gotta keep it
anyway,
on.
I guess you might wanna look at that.
Yes, so
Yeah,
those
I
are
mean,
all
I
the
think
comments.
trees are way more important than shrubs anyway.
So, again, we're fine, we're not, we want approval tonight, so if the board would like to make that a condition that we add a landscape island in there or two, we can do that. We will need to lose some parking spaces because they need to be 9 feet wide, and we need to have fire truck turnaround in there, so we'll end up with 46 or 45 spaces, which is okay. It's just, more expense and something that we don't need to do to meet the regulations, so we're going above and beyond, but if that's what it takes to walk out of here tonight, then that's what we'll do. The biggest thing is I don't want to have any conditions where we're required to put street trees on the adjacent parcel, which is not something that we're here for tonight, that's all.
So if we took out 4 spots and basically expanded those islands in and put a tree or two in each of those middle spots, is that what you're saying, Suzanne?
No, there's striped islands right now on the pavement.
Yeah, but that's because they had the fire truck movement has to go around them.
Does it have to go over the whole?
We'll have to roll over them.
Yeah.
How far over? I'm sorry, can I just,
Not significant.
do you have that? Or, I think it was part of the packet.
Brought a copy
Oh.
of the turning motion.
A landscape island, those are only 6 feet wide, right? So
Those are 8
They
feet
look
wide.
like they're 8 feet here.
So could you just,
Could you put them in the middle?
or even, I mean, you could request a waiver to keep them at 8 feet,
Yeah. So I was gonna suggest.
because it looks like the truck just goes over one corner.
It is minimal. That's
Yeah.
why, we can't
So then
do
put the
it.
tree in the middle. have a sloped curb or something, and then
Cut
just
the corners
ask
back.
for a waiver
Gonna go in
tonight
there
to
for?
keep it 8 feet.
What's a fire truck gonna go in there for?
What if you got a medical emergency in the
Well,
parking lot?
ambulance is different though. I mean,
Fire truck will
Fire
show
truck
up with the
comes-
ambulance as well.
Fire trucks come with every,
That's true.
This was a
And they get
request from the
staff
fire
to
department.
lift somebody and whatnot.
right now, the fire trucks park out on the street, and the ambulance, if it's called, comes
Because
into
they
the
can't,
yard.
they can't
But
turn
they have-
around in
no,
the
they have to
existing,
back
that's
out.
why.
Well, we would support a waiver for 8-foot wide islands and sloped curbs so that you could just keep the number of spaces that you have.
And maybe not even have them be oval, maybe we could cut the corners a little bit to better fit.
Yeah. I think
Turn.
yeah, we would want you to be able to maintain the number of spaces, because
Yeah.
we're hearing you say how important spaces are.
That's fine, so we can request that waiver.
Right
in-
now, I'm just gonna look up the section number. Right
Eagle.
now.
Right now.
I'm doing it.
So that's totally fine, yeah.
So Jeff, I have just one quick question, just for clarification, this might be in the comments, but your sheet 2 says the survey was done in October 21. I just want to clarify, that's of this lot, because that other lot is not how that exists today, I don't believe.
It's-
Because you go to Google Street View and there's a connection from the street to that building, which is not on this plan, for a sidewalk. And the whole parking lot striping on the existing lot is completely different than what's shown. So I just want to make sure, if that's a clarification we need to make, that your survey is only of lot 100, was it?
Yeah.
If you look, see how there's like, if I look in the lower corner, there's a sidewalk connection under the word 100 there in front of the site that does not show up on yours. If that doesn't matter, like, it's just, I don't know how the two lots are tied together
Well,
because of the access.
They're not.
They did
Share,
a,
well, because of the shared access through the lots.
Well, Mark Sargent he ran out of here. He did the lot line adjustment plan in December. So it should have been, he might have just missed that connection because he was focusing on the lot lines.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure I just don't know how the two lots tie together for an approval. If it's just 100, we're not looking back at the other lot for any conformance issues.
Wait a minute, I'm confused.
So,
He's talking about on 100
On-
Hall Street, there is this connection from the front entrance.
and then the parking lot layout here seems to be different than what's in the field.
No, it's not a curb
So-
cut, though, in front of the building.
So no, it's just a sidewalk.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm asking is, are we to ignore the existing site completely?
Yes, we're not looking at that. They're
Even though they're connected together and one has to travel through the other?
correct, yep, because they're just
That's
getting
what I'm
across
trying
access.
to
Okay,
ask.
sorry, I was,
No, and that's why I'm asking, does the
Yep.
survey not really matter because?
correct.
Okay,
Yep,
just trying to understand.
Yep.
Didn't mean to
thank you.
cause too much confusion.
Yes, you do.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Just one more
Suzanne?
question. How are you treating the, what do you call it, detention? Detention?
Water detention?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
What do, how are you?
Stormwater treatment?
Like, you mean like
Yeah, is it just,
grass or what?
Yeah, so, we have, because we are close to, the wetland on the back end of the property, it's a very high groundwater table. So we have all of the all of the stormwater is sheet flowing off of the parking area into a large detention basin to try to, meter out the large volume of stormwater. And that travels through an outlet and down a treatment swale so that there will be a treatment of that first flush of stormwater. And then there's a secondary basin that's going to be acting as a infiltration basin. So when you have those first inch or first flush of stormwater that comes off of the parking area, that will be treated in the swale and then infiltrated in that infiltration area.
so you're not gonna mow it?
I believe that would be up to the,
It could be mowed.
yeah, there
sure they
there
will,
should no
yeah.
be.
Well, I
there-
mean, I think actually there's better infiltration if it's not mowed because the roots of the whatever plant helps get the water down to the groundwater, if that's something that you're trying to achieve. That's what I was asking, what was the treatment? Are you tending it to be mowed, or you're gonna just have it be like, like a conservation mix and,
Yeah, that was one of our recommendations, to make it a conservation seed mix.
yeah, I think that's good too.
We can definitely take that, yeah.
Oh, that'd be nice. Okay, any other questions or comments? Any member of the audience have any questions or comments about this application? No?
Do we have the waiver? Do we?
I can
Yeah,
read
waivers,
the
for
additional
8-foot
waivers.
islands, yeah, we'll get that into the record.
Yep.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony. And we'll look at our report. So in your report, 4.1, where do you want to add it, Beth?
We can do,
You want to add it in
you can
after
do
the?
ADR, yeah, we can do it as 4.2 and
Okay,
then, but you may want to, if you were agreeable, their request is to not plant in front of 100 Hall Street, so if you want to change that condition of ADR approval, make that part of your motion if you
oh,
are going
okay,
to do
yeah,
that.
okay, so 4.1 is to grant ADR approval for the proposed site plan for the parking lot subject to the applicant providing additional street trees along the frontage of 96 Hall Street, not 100 Hall Street, at maximum spacing of 25 feet, and convert proposed striping parking lots into landscape parking islands, and include street tree plantings in the islands. Good, so the proposal is to not have them, not make them plant in front of 100 Hall Street, right?
If that's what the board wants to
If
do.
that's what the board would like. So we've got that. Would someone like to make a motion to grant ADR approval as outlined in the packet, striking 100 Hall Street from the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 4.2 is to grant conditional use permit approval
Can we
with
sneak in?
with the waiver for 8-foot islands. Is that?
We'll
how
make
do
it
you
a
wanna read
separate,
Okay,
separate motion.
so separate motion. So do we want to do 4.2 alone, standalone as it is now?
Yeah.
So grant conditional use permit approval in accordance with Article 2843D of the zoning ordinance to allow for disturbance of 6,500 square feet of land within the 50-foot wetland buffer for the construction of stormwater management system, with the condition that the area be restored with a restorative conservation seed mix and native species appropriate for wetland buffer. Would someone like to make a motion to grant conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved.
So seconded.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Just opposed? That motion carries. And then where do you want to put this?
So we'll make a new 4.3
4.3,
to request a waiver to section 18.13 to allow for 8-foot landscape parking islands where 9 feet is required.
okay, so would someone like to make a motion to
I
grant?
have one more waiver
Whoop.
if we want to do it.
Oh, do them together, yeah.
And this is to section 22.072, stormwater design standards, to allow for 1 foot of separation between the bottom of infiltration system and the groundwater, where the regulation calls for 4 feet of separation, with the condition that test pit data be provided prior to final approval.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion to grant those waivers as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And then 4.3 is to grant major site plan approval. 4.4, sorry. 4.4 is to grant major site plan approval for the proposed commercial parking lot at 96 Hall Street, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions, and those are outlined in precedent conditions 1 through 6 and subsequent conditions 1 through 4. Would someone like to make a motion to grant major site plan approval as outlined?
Does that include all the other comments that you had?
Yeah, includes
Yes,
all of the,
yes.
all of the review comments, yes. Yep. Does it say that?
Move.
Yep.
Yeah,
They have
technical,
to
yeah,
meet all
technical
the staff
review and
comments,
address
yeah.
engineering review, yeah. So we've got a motion on the table. Is that right? You made
Yes,
a motion?
I moved it.
Seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Ask if there's any discussion. Okay, you're all set. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get on to the next item on our agenda, which is item 8.8H.
Orange Street Architects and Wilcox and Barton, on behalf of Mendota Properties, request major site plan approval to convert a single-family residential home into a 5-room residential social service center at 29 Talent Road in the Open Space Residential District. Staff, this is similarly to the last project. This is a major site plan, and normally would be a 2-month process, but due to the minor nature of what's being proposed in terms of site work, they're requesting a waiver to have it all in one meeting, and staff is in support of that. So staff's recommendation is to determine the application complete, not a development of regional impact, grant the waiver, to have a public hearing and open the public hearing.
Okay, so staff has determined the application complete, not a development of regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion to determine the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and waive the requirement to have the public hearing the following month?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We'll open the public hearing. If we could get a quick staff update on this.
Sure, this application went through ZBA approval process last month where they got variances for lot coverage, parking area design standards, and surfacing and drainage to keep a gravel surface parking lot for the driveway. They're requesting some waivers that are associated with those variances regarding parking lot markings and driveway widths to allow for the narrow driveway, which staff supports. There are recommendations to add additional screening based on ADR comments. I think that's it.
Okay, welcome to the table. If you could state your names for the record.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Erin Lambert with Wilcox and Barton.
Good evening. I'm Michael Medeiros, the Executive Director for Nora Restorative.
So I'm going to let Michael give you just a brief overview of who they are and what this project involves in terms of the use, and then I will walk through the site plan changes that are before you this evening.
Thank you. So Nora Restorative is a company that's been around for 50 years.
Say the name again, I'm sorry.
Nora Restorative.
Noro.
Yep, Noro. Gotcha.
Sorry. And we've been around for 50 years, and we operate in 26 states. Our mission is to take care of people that have acquired brain injuries or traumatic brain injuries. We give them the opportunity to live a quality of life that they otherwise couldn't do with living at home with their families or in institutions. A lot of our work, we collaborate with each state, departments of developmentally delayed, here in New Hampshire, BDS, the area agencies. So we collaborate, they identify needs, we work together, and we find good programs, homes, that we can support people that have traumatic brain injuries, acquired brain injuries, to live as a quality of life as they possibly can. And things, what that means is that things that we take for granted. We live in our homes, we we take care of ourselves, we cook our meals, we plan our meals, we go on outings. Well, we provide that. That's the services that we provide to them that they couldn't do with their families or institutions.
So we're before you tonight for a change of use at 29 Talent Road, which is about a quarter-mile north of Hoyt Road. It's a single-family residence that we are changing to a residential social service center. And with that change of use, there were a few site plan changes that were necessitated, and that's why we're before you this evening. So I just want to give you an overview. This is the single-family home. There's also a 2-stall garage on the property. There's now a generator. There is a dumpster that will be enclosed, and there's an underground propane tank system. So I just want to give you, this is an overview of the site. So the green that you see is the wooded buffer that exists. This is the home in the center of the screen. This is the garage. And basically the layout is it's a gravel loop driveway with a landscape feature in the center. And we've worked hard to maintain that while adding the parking that's required for the program. You'll see there's also a lot of gravel right now behind the house. We are proposing to remove that. So basically what the site improvements, there are no additions to the building. It's a single-story, 5-bedroom home. There's no exterior additions to the building. We are making 2 changes to make the front and the rear entrances ADA accessible. So in the front, there will be a short ramp that comes off of the front porch down to an asphalt sidewalk. And then off the porch in the back, the same thing. There will be a concrete pad and then a sidewalk. Those are required. 2 means of egress, accessible egress are required to meet the licensing requirements of the facility. In addition, we need to provide 10 parking spaces. So with 5 residents, there could be up to 5 staff on a 1-to-1 ratio. And we want to make sure we also have sufficient parking for the shift change, should all of those folks change over at the same time. So there'll normally be 5 cars on site. But then there's the occasional, visitor or other therapist, other services that might come to the property. So 2 parking spaces will be provided in the garage. There are 2 gravel spaces that we can keep here. And we're adding 5 gravel spaces here, and this one already exists. So there will be 8 exterior spaces and 2 within the garage. You'll notice I made a couple of minor changes. One of the comments that we received from engineering was to make sure that we had a paved path from our accessible spaces to the accessible door. So we originally had the ADA spaces here because then somebody could drive in without having it to be a parallel space. However, technically this space would be closest to the door, so we're exploring having this be the ADA space with the aisle, and that would be connected with a walkway. In the event that we can't make these grades work, we would maintain the ADA space here. It would be either paved or concrete, and then we would add a walkway. But this is the plan, and we are looking at the grades for that. So this is the only area that we have to do any tree clearing. We are going to have to remove some trees, minimal trees, in order to add these 5 gravel parking spaces. In order to reduce the clearing, we're going to put in a short, probably a 2-foot-high retaining wall just to keep that clearing to a minimum. One of the waivers that's before you is to, because they're gravel parking spaces, we don't have a way to paint lines on them, stripe them. So what is one of the waivers before you. We are proposing to put a sign at the head of each space, so that will help as folks are using those to help demarcate them in the best way possible. The other couple of comments that we received that we've responded to, we are proposing to put an enclosure around the generator. There is a 4.5-foot by 12-foot generator on a concrete pad. So we're proposing to put an enclosure around that stockade enclosure similar to what would be around the dumpster, so those would match. There is a request also to add some additional screening. We are not needing to add any trees in order to meet the city's tree requirement for parking in driveways. However, the front buffers are a little bit sparse because we have trees, but we don't have low vegetation. So we will work on providing a plan that has a combination of a vegetative buffer or a fence, and we will work with Beth on that. The other waiver that's before you is for the driveway width. We really wanted to keep the existing driveway in keeping with the neighborhood. One of the variances we received was to have a gravel driveway and parking in lieu of pavement, and also for driveway width. But the driveway width also lives in the site plan regulations. So we are requesting that you allow us to keep the existing driveway. At its narrowest point, it's 13 feet. I've been there. There's ample room for somebody to, if they're leaving, to see that there's a car entering so they could wait while somebody comes through. Or if somebody is already there, they could wait on the road. So it's very similar to a residential condition. Once you get through that initial neck, it widens out to 18 feet and wider. The driveway is adequate for emergency vehicles as well as the garbage truck. We've run turning templates for both of those. So we respectfully request that the board grant those 2 waivers. It basically allows us to keep the existing configuration, which minimizes the amount of tree clearing we need to do, changes to stormwater, those sorts of things. And just a couple of other site details. The house is serviced by a well. There's a new septic that was put in, so it is correctly sized for the use. There is an emergency generator. The reason for that is there is a fire pump, and the generator is needed to ensure that that can function should we have a power outage. And there is also an underground propane tank which services the generator. If you drive by the site today, you'll see that that's not quite stabilized. So you can see that it looks, you can see sand basically. So one of the things that they'll do when they finish up the site work is place topsoil and seed. That will help that look a little more in keeping with the area, and then the screening that we're going to add will also assist with that. So that's what I have for the site plan. I'd be happy to, let me share, I just wanted to share one more thing, I apologize. I did mention this earlier, but this green that you see behind the house, that's all gravel today. So one of the things that we're doing is we're going to restore that to grass. So while we're adding a little bit of gravel to create additional spaces, we're removing the gravel in the back in order to keep our lot coverage as low as possible. We were granted a variance for up to 14%, where 10% is allowed. We are closer to 11.6 by making these changes. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. What are the hours of operations? So 24/7, I understand that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that was wrong. What hours are people visiting, or what are the shift change hours?
Shift change hours are traditional 7 to 3 through 11, 11 to 7.
Okay.
visiting, people would come late morning, afternoons.
Okay, and there's 5 guests and 5 staff? Rotating, obviously,
Yes.
with staff coming
Yes.
in, okay. Generator, you said it's a...
If I may, I'm sorry. Based on their need. I mean, up to 5.
Sure,
So-
and again, I think Aaron had said, you know, you'll have some help as well, or some folks coming in for
Say physical
consultation or
service.
therapy, sorry, couldn't think of the word. So there'll be people coming and going for that, and you're confident in using the garage and having enough space for that as far as turning people around?
Absolutely, yeah, the garage will definitely be used for staff that are going to be there, to leave the surface spaces that aren't dedicated to staff open for, say, a visitor or a therapist or somebody else who needed, a maintenance person that needed to come to the property.
So I'm not familiar with the street. I mean, I know where the street is and I know Point Road, but where are the neighbors? How close are the neighbors to this house as far as the big picture map overview?
Sure. I believe we're going to meet many of our neighbors this evening. There is a neighbor directly across the street, almost, I believe. I don't want to speak for the Summers. There is a neighbor to the south. There's a neighbor to the north. And I think many of them are here tonight, so
Okay.
you'll get some more information on that.
And the generator is an emergency generator
Generator's an emergency generator.
in the back of the house?
Yep. Well, it's on the side of the garage, and that was, so this is the propane and this is the generator, but it will have screening around it, similar to what you'd see around a dumpster, so it'll be a stock 60.
And it only runs if your electricity though. How about lighting? Oh, sorry, hang on. How about lighting?
Sure. So there is minimal lighting designed for safety, so there are a few light poles. We tried to use bollards, but we couldn't get adequate, so there are a few lights. They are 12-foot max pole, fully cut off, downcast, complying with the city ordinance. And then there are a couple of lights on the building to light the walkway. Those will be put on timers so that they will dim and or turn off after the last shift change at the end of the evening. And they'll be fully controllable, so they can be adjusted as needed.
And the 12-foot poles are where?
I can go to the lighting plan. Give me one moment. All right. So there is one pole by the parking spaces, and you can see these ovals that come out. That is the direct light. So there's a pole here. There's a pole.
Point to that again, Aaron. I'm sorry.
Right
there.
here.
Yeah, I got you.
Yep.
Okay.
So kind of in the center of the gravel parking
Yep,
spaces.
I got you. Yep.
One at the island.
Yep.
One by these parking spaces. So there's 3 poles, and the rest are going to be more residential scale on
Pack
the
lighting
building.
on the house or whatever.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. And these will be motion sensor, I would imagine, the one that's by the garage, because unless someone is going there, we don't need that light to be on. So, Michael and I have talked, they have a number of approaches that they've taken at other facilities. So it'll be a combination of motion sensor or timer, again, just to provide enough light for the safety of their employees as they're going to and from their cars, but then dim them appropriately when that shift has ended.
Okay. How about trash removal? Is
Sure.
is a truck coming in?
There is. There's a truck coming in, so there's a dumpster that's already there. We are going to put a screen around it with a gate on the front.
The dumpster was already there with the previous owner?
It's there now. I apologize. I don't know. There is a dumpster there now.
Okay.
So yes, and I've been there when they came, and so it's a front loader. They'll come pick it up, back up, and so they can circulate through the site.
Okay. Sorry, girl.
Just a
I
quick.
didn't mean to shush you. Sorry, I
No.
was on a roll.
When I heard generator,
Yeah.
it's an auto start generator.
Yep.
So when the power goes off, so there's a routine run once a week for a half an hour or so?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
And you said septic as well?
Yes, and there's a new septic in the front lawn. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Yep, Suzanne?
I was wondering if you considered using hard pack rather than gravel?
It's actually already there, so we're just maintaining what's there today.
Is it loose gravel or?
No, it's pretty
It's
hard.
a hard pack.
It is
Okay.
a hard pack.
Yeah, because that can actually be handicap accessible, but loose gravel would not be.
I will look into that.
Yeah, and then my other thing is, I think it would be worthwhile for us mentioning the times where the dumpster can be emptied.
Oh, sure.
Because I know, like, in some commercial areas that are near residential,
6
you can
o'clock in the
say that
morning,
it only has to,
You don't want it there at 6 in the morning.
Or,
Yeah.
or 3 in the morning,
Yeah, yeah.
which is even worse.
Yeah.
So if we can say,
Yep.
like, it has to be between, like, the noise ordinances, but even that, like, you
7
could
to-
say 7 and 8, or
Yeah,
7
yeah.
and 5, or something like that. Like the
I'm
working
gonna
day.
rely on you to remind me of that by the end of when we get to the end.
Okay.
Jeff?
So I have two questions. Since you are doing gravel parking or requesting gravel, and you don't have markings for that parking area, if you can zoom, no, actually stay right on the plan you were
On the
on.
lighting one?
Yep, because you guys show a pole that's tucked right in front of the wall for a car. And so I'm thinking, okay, A, how is snow removal in that area? B, with no stripes, how does somebody know? You've got it jam-packed in so tight there that if anyone doesn't park perfectly, you're losing a space, if not more. Is there any possibility of squaring off the right-hand side of that wall to extend out at that same angle and maybe move it out to give a little bit
Here?
more space? Yeah, I know you can't move the other side because of the well, but if there's possibility of shifting,
We can't park in the front yard is the restriction. But if we are removing the ADA parking space here, I have a little more room, so I can reconfigure
yeah, I
that
just
to
worried, you know what I'm
ensure-
saying?
Yep.
Because people, if they come in at an angle, especially in a big truck, the next one's not gonna park. And so I'm just kind of curious how snow removal, especially if the light pole's on that side of the wall,
I
is
also
gonna
think we should
happen.
bump the light pole behind the wall, so we can.
That would be my recommendation. Other than that, I understand wanting to keep gravel and parking and whatnot. Without markings, we see people with markings that pull into Market Basket, whatever, and, you gotta have a can opener to get out of your car after they leave. But, here, with no markings, if there's any extra room that can be kind of tweaked.
Yes, I will definitely adjust the light pole behind the wall, and as we make the change with the ADA, I'll see what we can do for
That'd be
wiggle room.
great.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Okay, it is a public hearing, so I'm sure we've got some folks that want to speak, so I'll have you guys hop back, and we may bring you back up with more questions.
I'm better on than this, sorry. Let me just put, the lighting's not the most exciting part, I think. Sorry.
I'm sure some people like the lighting plan.
They might. They might. I should not discount it. Thank you.
Yeah, show of hands, no kidding. Okay, any member of the audience wish to address this application? Come on up. Hi there.
Hi.
If you could just state your name for the record, and we'll have you sign in too, whether now or after.
Sure, it's Ben Stevenson.
Do you live in the area, Mr.
I
Stevenson?
do, I live on 32 Talent Road.
Okay.
I'm not very good at speaking publicly, so I just wrote a statement that I'd like to read if that's okay.
Sure, go right ahead.
So, as a resident of Talent Road, I felt it important to speak today, as this facility will have an impact on this road and neighborhood. I'd like to be very clear that this is not, however. This is not in my backyard. I bear no ill will towards the residents or staff of the future facility, hoping that they join this great little neighborhood in Concord and are good tenants of the property. What I am frustrated with is the deceptive way that this company has gone about the entire process, beginning with misrepresenting who the buyer was for this property, to exploiting all loopholes in codes and permitting processes to build a hospital-grade facility with no notice to abutters of what was happening, or even give city services most impacted by this new facility, the first responders, a chance to weigh in on their ability to get vehicles in and out of the facility safely. This is a dirt road that does not stay well maintained and is not well plowed in the wintertime. In addition, there is a terrible issue with the intersection of Talent and Hoyt that the city is very well aware of. Dave Cedarholm has made several site visits and concluded that this turn is significantly flawed and would be well deserving of improvement. I am intimately familiar with this corner as it had an impact on a fire at my own home, as well as several near misses of my daughter from cars driving through the bus stop, as buses cannot make it up Talent Road. Improvement of the corner was a condition that the city of Concord actually placed on me when I attempted to subdivide my property on Talent Road. In 2016, I attempted to subdivide my 20-acre lot one lot for myself, 1 lot for my mother, and 2 sale lots. The city said this would trigger a major subdivision, and as a condition of this, I would bear the full cost of the improvement of the intersection of Hoyt and Talent. As this would have been a far greater cost than the sale of the 4th lot, I chose to do a 3-lot subdivision and stay within the confines of a minor subdivision. Since this precedent has already been set, however, I see this as a minimum bar for any impactful development of the road. The new facility will have staff of 5 turning over every 8 hours, so at a minimum, that is 10 vehicles coming and going every 8 hours or 30 cars in a 24-hour period. That is on a smooth day with no calls to city services for support, no delivery vehicles, no visitors. Since there is a facility already in Concord, I would ask the city look at the response rate of the Loop Road facility in Concord as a guide to how often responders will be called to this facility. I had downloaded the record but did not have a chance to print it off. I did have 58 calls since 2019, so a significant call log with fire responding. In addition to the corner being only accessed by Concord Fire via 7-point turn on a treacherous section of road in pristine summer conditions and a recent test to prove the ability to make the corner, Dave Cedarholm again can provide the video. This road Talent Road becomes heavily rutted due to only light residential travel. Again, looking at the response rate of the Loop Road facility for increased impact to Talent Road, the rutting by consistent response of the fire trucks and ambulance will make this road impassable quickly. I do not feel that this is the burden of either the residents of the road or the city taxpayers should bear. This should be the responsibility of the facility to pay for the impact they will impose on this road. An impact that would have been well measured here if they had not backdoored this facility onto the road. By staying a residential property and then only applying for a change of use, they have avoided city service evaluation, notice to butters, more stringent code enforcement, etc. This was at a minimum gaming the system, but in my opinion, doing the residents and the city of Concord very dirty by knowingly circumventing the process that all other businesses go through. Because of this circumvention, any conditions of the city required to minimize the impact on the residents should be met before allowing a change of use. They cannot justify a hardship to any conditions that they have created for themselves by bypassing these evaluation standards that they otherwise would have had to comply with. The zoning board has just approved 3 variance requests last week, all 3 of which have dramatic impact on the city services' ability to safely respond to a call and attempt to keep the character of the neighborhood. They have missed the mark badly by allowing an unpaved drive and a 13-foot choke point when a 25-foot wide driveway is required at these facilities. This will be a significant strain on city services when coming and going on a response call, hence the paved and wider requirements. I do not envy the firefighters that have to drive through this gravel drive in the middle of spring mud season for the 3rd time that week when ruts on the driveway are impassable. That is all the zoning board and facilities issue to manage. However, when cars have to be parked on the road because the driveway has become impassable, lost my train of thought, but that would be, it was incredibly short-sighted of the zoning board to grant these variances. In summary, I'm asking the planning board to hold off on approving.
Jesus.
Anybody else does it?
I'll just put it down.
Sorry about that, gentlemen, sir.
Even the flags feel strongly about this.
Uh-oh,
This is why we
now
can't
you've
have
done it.
anything nice.
Won't move now.
Should we just lay it down?
So in summary, I'm asking the planning board to hold off on approving the change of use until they can truly evaluate the impact this facility will have to this neighborhood and road. I think city services, Concord Fire, Ambulance, and Police, as well as city engineering, should be given a chance to weigh in on how the road will or will not be able to meet the increased impact to Talent Road. I feel this facility should be expected to pay for the improvements that will offset these impacts. I feel the city has already set the bar on any additional impact to Talent Road, and that they have stated the corner would need to be improved by me beforehand. Given that this facility will far exceed the impact of one additional residential home, I cannot see how the city would not impose this as a condition. I think that paving the road would be the only way to avoid rutting in the springtime mud season, and should be a condition as well. For at least the length of the road that the city services would be using when this facility opens, such as a turnaround, etc. Finally, I feel that the city strongly needs to examine the loopholes that allow this business to target this location and proceed with building a medical facility on a residential permit. It is my understanding that they are approximately $500,000 into this project, which means it would be wrong for the city to consider a claim of hardship for any of these improvements. They should not be allowed to beg for forgiveness rather than ask for permission, especially under the false pretenses they represented. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions of Mr. Stevenson? Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Yes, come on up.
Good evening, everybody. I know it's been a long evening, so I'll try to keep it short here. Eric Summers, we own the property directly across the street. I'm building a house there. We're not quite finished, but we're getting close. I think the application, I think one of my big concerns is the application says it's a limited improvement, and that may be true if you look at what they're proposing right now, but they've actually been, Mendota has been making improvements in a residential, under residential, I guess, permits for the last year and a half. They put in a new septic system, put it in the application. I looked at the application of DES. It was it's applied for as a residential rehab facility with 5 members and another additional 10 people in there. So they were looking for a minimum of 15 people for the septic. So they tore out the old septic. It's not really I think it's a little bit. It doesn't feel like it's a limited change for the residents there, because it's a significant impact with the number of people that are going to be there and the effect on the comings and goings in the road. And if anybody's been up that road, some of you may have or may not have, but it is just a dirt road, and it does get very muddy in the springtime. It gets torn up pretty quickly by the limited traffic that's there. The facility, as they propose it, is going to be increasing traffic by probably 2 or 3 times what the rest of the neighborhood combined use is at this time. So there's a significant impact to everybody in that neighborhood with the road. We've asked them in a recent meeting how many more people will be there. They say there's 5 staff, that at any given time. They've been a little bit less forthcoming with how many allied services or ancillary services, allied health services. There may be up to 4 therapists. They could be there up to 5 times a week, possibly. There's probably supervisors coming in. There may be medical people coming in. So we don't really understand what the full impact is at this point, and it hasn't really been disclosed. I think it's being presented as just it's a residential to residential. It's being represented 5 people, maybe 5 staff members. It's kind of minimized what the impact really is on that property. And I think taking a look and going and seeing what that place is like, in the different seasons will give people the impression that this is going to be a significant impact to the neighbors, mostly with the traffic and how it's going to affect the road. And I think that's a big deal for the city, because the city then eventually becomes responsible for the cost of maintaining that, perhaps having to improve if there's fire and emergency services that have to come in. So my biggest concern about this is how the use is going to impact everybody else, and how it's going to impact the city, and how it's going to impact the road, and we don't have a good understanding of that yet, because the conversations which we've just started having with Mendota, we've had one meeting with them, and they've been sort of hedged on how many people are really coming there. So without knowing that, I think there needs to be more information, and I think the city of Concord deserves to have more information to make, for the planning board to be able to make a reasoned decision as to whether this change of use should be allowed as they propose it, or if there should be other conditions imposed, such as improvement of the road, or some other things that Ben has mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Summers? Thank you very much for your testimony. Okay. Come on up.
Good evening, my name is Laurel Brown. I live right next door at 19 Talent Road. I want everybody here to know that we did not have any notice about any of this until 5 weeks ago. That was the first time any neighbor was contacted by this company to let us know that they were going to be putting this residential service, social service center in our neighborhood that would greatly impact our road, our property values, and our entire neighborhood. It has been implied and has been said that all of us neighbors don't want this in our neighborhood. That is not the case. I have worked for 8 years with mentally disabled people. My sister is mentally disabled, and all of our neighbors feel the same way. We realize that everybody has the right to have a home and live in good quality life wherever they can. So I want to make sure everybody here understands that that is not our aim tonight at all. As far as what the other two people have said already, we met with them, with Mr. Mendoza and I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right, I'm sorry, Medeiros. And the engineer, I believe. Were you on the call Friday? I was not. Okay. And the lawyer was on the call Friday. And we kept trying to get them to tell us how you know, you keep saying there's going to be 5 residents, that's fine. But when they initially talked to us at the zoning board meeting, they said 5 residents with 5 caretakers. Now, on Friday, this past Friday, when we met with them on a Zoom call, they're saying, well, there may be 1 caregiver for maybe 3 people that are staying there, 3 residents. This concerns me because, as we know, social service caregivers burn out easily. They call in sick frequently. And I don't know what kind of staffing this is going to leave them with if they are minimally staffing this facility. I'm concerned for the safety of the residents as well as the safety of all of us on the neighborhood. Once again, they have just been so vague about how many people are going to be coming and going. They keep saying, well, we're really not sure. And we need to be sure. I guess none of you have been to Talent Road, and everybody's described it as a dirt road. But it is also a road that safely only 1 car at a time can drive down. I took some photos today. I've got them on my phone. But when we're driving by each other, we're over onto the sides where the road is off. It's just gravel, and it's not the road. I also want to point out that the pictures that they have given you of the site that are dated March 31st, if you can look at them in the packet they gave you, those photos of the road were done a day after the new grading had just been finished. So they are showing you a pristine road that had just been regraded after the mud season. That is not what that road looks like today. And yeah, it is not what the road looks today. And the generator is not hidden, as they're trying to say it is. It is right there out in front. You can see it from the road. It is big. It is, it's very disconcerting that everything we keep getting from these people is very vague, and they won't give us a direct answer. And as a matter of fact, I presented them with a letter when we saw them at the zoning board on May 4th about putting up a fence along my property line. My property line sits 50 feet from this house. And it is woodland, and there is no way that any of the residents or the caregivers won't know where that property line is. It's right through the woods. I have asked them to put up a fence at their expense and along the entire property line, and I got a call today from Mr. Medeiros, and he said, we're going to put up a fence for you. And I said, great, can I have that in writing, please? The email he sent me was, per your request, Neuro Restorative will be reviewing the property at 29 Talent Road, Concord, New Hampshire, and put a plan together for a fence to be installed. That does not sound definitive to me in any way. Reviewing and putting a plan together is not, yes, we're going to do this. And once again, they are vague. They are vague. They won't give us anything definitive. And that is what I have to say. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you very much for your testimony. breath, deep breath.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Boffinger. I've been here before to talk about my beloved Talent Dirt Road. I live at 41 Talent Road, which is the property just north of the property we're talking about. At one time, I owned it all on that side of the road. My husband and I cut off 2 lots and had family members move in. My father-in-law and my sister-in-law lived in the lots next door. So the lot that this facility going into was my father-in-law's home, retired couple home until a couple of years ago when he passed away. And I just want to say before I start that I think some of the confusion, like when the civil engineers or someone mentioned the previous owner and we all said no, our family, the Boffingers, sold to a couple from Ohio who wanted a retirement home. And now when they say the previous owners had a dumpster there, they're talking about whoever that company was that bought it and did all these residential upgrades. I don't know who owns it now. I know I could find out, but it just adds to the confusion about what's going on.
So, I'm sorry, so there's an owner in between you and the people there?
I can only assume by the way that I've heard at the zoning board 2 weeks ago and tonight, the way people say the previous owner was Grandpa Boffinger. He did not have a dumpster. He did not have a propane tank, underground with a commercial-sized generator. He was an 84-year-old man who lugged his purple garbage bag out his little dirt driveway onto our dirt road. So up until the zoning board meeting 2 weeks ago, I had no idea that this was the plan. Like I said, I'm the family that sold the house to a couple from Ohio. The buyers were not honest or forthcoming with their plans, obviously. They were an out-of-state company, and they have a hidden agenda, or it appears to me a hidden agenda, again, as an abutter and finding this information out. The new owners moved forward immediately with turning the single-family home into a facility that met the specs of their business. The perception to me was, as they upgraded the septic and the wells and added the commercial generator, that they'd already been approved for a facility. Work went on for 1.5 years, redoing the inside of this building, changing it to the 5-bedroom. The chair of the, you know what, I forgot my glasses. This is why this is hard, but anyway. The chair of the zoning board referred to this pushing through of the project at the zoning board as clever, as a clever use of the rules to meet their ends. As a 30-year landowner, 26 years living on that property, resident of this little community, I feel that we were deceived. And I didn't appreciate that the chair of the zoning board would refer to it as a clever use of the rules to get this facility through. It's disingenuous, it's deceptive. I'm just, as a person who, I sat through the meetings, I don't understand, I understand what the planning board does, because our homes on Talent Road is a small, fragile dirt road. Our homes, because of planning board and regulations, our homes, the 6 of us that own homes in this area, we're all together. Our driveways and our homes are in between 0.2 of a mile and 0.3 of a mile on the road, because there's not much land to build on. The land is really rough, and we had to find certain spots to plug our little homes in and plug our driveways in. One of the things I want to ask this board is just to make sure that proper procedures were followed up to this point to get where we were, where you've got 6 homes that were built by the people who live there. This isn't a development. We moved there, we built with our hands our own homes. And now we're being told that a facility that is going to have more cars in one day than we all own on the road coming in and out it's pretty significant to us, and obviously I'm quite upset about it. Let me just get down to where I can see. So just the major. It's not uncommon to slow down and pull to the side of the road when passing cars on our road at all. It's heavily potholed. It's corduroyed immediately after the grader goes through. When people say that it's rutty, oh my God, thank you. When people say that it's rutty, yes, it's rutty, but it's sinkhole rutty. It's sink to your knee rut, and you put it in four-wheel drive, and in the spring, you hope you make it up this slope. The road comes off of Hoyt Road like this, up to the first house, and comes down like this. This is always completely rutted. This is always completely icy, and people slide into Hoyt Road. So it's a rough little dirt road that really barely handles the the residents that we have there now. Ooh, these are good. I just feel that upgrades need to be made to the road to make it passable, safely passable with this kind of increased traffic that we're gonna see. I agree with Ben that I don't think it's up to taxpayers of Concord to pay for any kind of upgrades that need to be done on the road. I have more questions. I learned a lot about the lighting and the different aspects. One question I wanted to know about the lights on the outside at night, because over the winter, lights were left on all winter long in the barn, and you could see them from my house. It's because I'm just downhill of them. I'm concerned about the noise of the generator. I'm concerned about they have an outside alarm, so every time the fire alarm is pulled, an outside alarm goes off, so I hear it at my house. When I read the report of the calls at the other facility, multiple of those calls were just fire alarm calls. So am I gonna hear that outdoor fire alarm every time, a fire alarm is pulled? 5 cars idling at a time, warming up in the wintertime because nobody wants to change their shift and go get into a cold car. This property is not the right fit for this facility. Talent Road is not fit for this increased traffic as it stands now. And I just want to say that as a landowner and as a, living there on Talent Road, one of the first people down that little dirt road, I never expected that I would have to get in front of the planning board to understand how this facility got pushed into this spot. Like, I thought that we were in this rural open area. We're surrounded by conservation land, and here I am at the planning board on a dirt road trying to, just hope that you guys will maybe take further look into this before you make a decision on this, and just please go out to the road, please go to the site, please consider all times of year, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from Ms. Bobinger? No?
I'll just sign in.
Yes.
I was curious what you were saying. You didn't know who you sold the property to, and I looked up on the assessing database, and according to the assessing database, the property changed hands among the Bowfinger Family Trust several times, and then in November 2020 was sold to Mendota Properties, which is the current owner.
Well, I guess the real estate agent told us, and I think that that's how they presented themselves.
Yeah. Oh, so I was just giving you the information.
Okay.
You said you weren't sure. So
Yeah.
From your family trust,
Right.
it went to Mendota Properties in 2020, which is
So
the
no
current.
one should say that the previous owner increased to get the variance, from the 10 to 14. The previous owner was already at, or the previous owner brought in a dumpster. The previous owner was us. We didn't do that. So,
How was the house set up previously? Obviously, it wasn't a 5-bedroom house then.
no,
I
it
thought
was a
looked like-
retirement home, very lovely, first level, 1 bedroom, 1 small bedroom. The gravel they refer to around the building, it was a walkway so that my elderly in-laws could walk and enjoy their gardens. A lot of runoff comes from the property above. It's all ledge. You know how it is out there. There's no place. So there's a lot of runoff, and that gravel actually helped prevent a lot of washing away, which when they first built their house, they had a lot of water running under the building, not under the, like the porch, it was washing away, not the concrete, but, yeah, it was just a very lovely home for people who enjoyed being, they were on Mountain Road for a million years, it got so loud they couldn't hear their TV in their house, so they moved out to town. And they had their grandkids on either side, and, yeah. So, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. Okay, anybody else? So we will ask you to come on back up.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Engineer.
Yeah, a question for engineering?
Yes, a question for David from engineering. David, can you respond to the comments regarding the shape of the road and your research that you've done?
As Mr. Stevenson said, the intersection of Talent Road and Hoyt Road is, it's really tricky. The configuration of the angle of the two roads coming together is very awkward. It's historically been like that for a long time. It's not an excuse by any means, but it's how it has been. It's really, the grades on the side of the road make it almost impossible to make some simple modification. And also the property immediately to the east of that intersection is conservation land that was gifted to the city on the condition that it never be disturbed. So if there was some intent to improve the configuration of the intersection, it would require some really slick legal work to make it happen. And at the time of the gift as well, the heirs challenged the gift and it held up in court. But if there is a modification to the property, if it's taken out of open space, it's possible those heirs will be waiting. The condition is it actually goes back to the heirs if there's a change. So the heirs would have to agree to some kind of a change. So we're really limited in what we could do to improve the configuration, and the first part of it is paved, but the rest of it is dirt, and General Services fixes the potholes when they can, but at this point they don't have a big plan to go and repave that section. I don't know where it sits in their paving plan, but it's a challenging road for sure.
So it's not in the CIP?
Not currently.
Okay, thank you.
So can I just ask him a question as well? So what triggers, like if in this process when fire looks at this change and engineering and traffic, what triggers that condition that the road has to be approved up to the property?
I think there was a stipulation put on Mr. Stevenson's property, and I think it might apply to any subdivisions more than just a simple subdivision would require actually. If there's a major development out there, they would have to improve the intersection, which, as I said, is a tricky thing. I'm not sure how it's worded.
Well, would that apply to like change of use?
Or major.
So did you actually look something up on his, because I remember when Mr. Stevens, when I first got here, and he did not do the major subdivision like he said, because I do recall he came in and was told by staff at that time, engineering staff at that time, did not feel that the road could support four units, and that may, a lot of subdivisions could occur, and that road was not in sufficient condition to handle more units. So I don't recall them telling him that he had to improve the intersection. I don't, because I believe at the time we still realized what Mr. Cederholm was was commenting on, that it was a challenging intersection. I don't remember him being told.
No, but like how
Yeah,
about paving?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So I'm just, yes, he was told that, and he chose not to do a 4-lot subdivision. He chose to do a 3-lot subdivision. So I think you're asking a very good question, and I don't know the answer. You know, it does sound like it's gonna be more impact on a road that potentially shouldn't have it, and I don't even know if that's something that we've considered in this project, in this process. So part of the problem, part of the situation is that through the state, you know, through their relationship with the state, we can't like prohibit the use in certain districts, but I don't know what the criteria is or what the justification. I don't know if there is a standard by which we could say, you know what, this just simply isn't safe, or it's not, you know, it causes too much damage to the infrastructure and it's not an appropriate use because of that. I don't know if there's like some legal state level, you know, like when can we deny it? Like obviously it's not every single situation, but, or the alternative being like, you have to upgrade this road in order to be able to tolerate the use. So I think those are good questions. I don't know the answers.
If there was no house there and they wanted to put a facility in there, what would it trigger as far as same size that they're looking at? Would it trigger major site plan changes that the road, for the road?
I don't think it
would
matters
it?
either.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's the use and the impact on the road. So yes, the impacts of uses on roads, regardless of the construction or change of use, is what is correctly what we should be looking at. And you know, we look at like traffic studies, but I'm not sure, a traffic study is not the same thing. That's looking at like number of trips and if improvement needs to be made, but it's not, I don't know, maybe Jeff, you can weigh in on this, because I'm not sure. We're talking about the actual condition of the road, not the number of trips.
I guess my thought was when you went back to Mr. Stevenson, if he was told he couldn't do 4 lots because of the condition of the road, the amount of traffic and the damage, if you're suddenly switching from 1 unit to 5, that is pretty much the same as adding a brand new house or 5-lot subdivision. And so,
honestly, I don't think we've considered it really.
So I
condition.
mean,
I didn't know that was a condition on Mr. Stevens' lot. So
Well,
it
it
brought
wasn't
up.
a condition because he didn't go through with it, but he was told by staff, I was there, that if he wanted to do 4-lot subdivision. So there's no condition that he has to do
Right.
it. It's more like he was told, if you're gonna do 4 lots, you need to upgrade this road.
I mean, I think life safety
So
is
he
one of
didn't.
the
So
things
there's no condition on
definitely
it.
that has to be looked at. I mean, we talked earlier about other plans, the circulation of the fire truck through a lot and whatnot. And if this type of facility is an increased use that would demonstrate an increased call volume for the fire department, and if the fire department already has, if there really was a test done, that the fire department has a hard time making that corner.
They have not stated that.
Did you say I'm sorry, Ms. Stevenson, did fire actually go out with you and review it?
So the fire department has to do a 3-point turn to get in there from, if they're traveling,
Eastbound,
southbound.
try and make the left in.
Yeah.
So there is a demonstrated.
But that's not gonna change, and that's the section of the road that's paved. So that's not gonna change
Well,
whether they
well,
upgrade the road or
there's
not.
2 pieces. There's an improvement of the road to pave the surface, and then there's a potential to improve the road to prevent the longer time it takes to turn and go up if there's an increased volume. So
But that, like I'm saying, the 3-point turn is on the paved surface of Hoyt Road to the paved surface of
no, I
Talent
understand.
Road.
No, I know the intersection that
Okay.
they're talking about, and while I haven't traveled up Talent, I travel up Shaker into Loudon, so I know what you're talking about with the rutting and that soft, mucky sand that you got to be careful of in the spring. So it comes down to more of a life safety, and in terms of the fire access, is the only thing I think. From a traffic volume side, yes, an increased volume does affect the rutting, but there's no like actual analysis we would do to say, oh, well, 1 more car is going to make it that much. I think it comes down more to the ability to travel by emergency services. That might be the area.
Okay. Did you have a quick comment regarding, I know you raised your hand.
She actually clarified it, but
Okay.
it was a condition set on my subdivision. If I wanted to do 4 lots, that I did have to.
To upgrade, improve the corner?
Yes.
For the corner.
And improve the road or improve the corner?
So improve the road and that corner.
Okay. All right, let's,
From a 4-lot subdivision, so that's why it.
okay. All right, I'm gonna hold it there then for right now. Okay, so you heard a lot of comments, a lot of questions, a lot of
I'll speak to a
points.
couple of the screening ones. The generator is definitely visible today, and we acknowledge that, and there is a plan to screen it. So, and I know that it sounds like the dumpster. We were brought on, Jonathan Halley, the architect, and I were hired in March. And so when I came on board, this is the survey that I saw. So I don't know when the dumpster was there and don't mean to represent when it was there. But the dumpster is, for this use, it will be screened in accordance with the site plan regulations, as will the generator. As I mentioned, it's 4.5 feet by 12.5 feet, and it will be screened. The propane is buried. You do see a mound that will be restored with loam and seed, and then the screening, the shrubs and other screening that we'll put along the road. Will help to buffer that. That's the work that's been done, to my understanding, and we are going to have to install a few parking spaces, and we'll provide that additional screening for those. So that's what I wanted to share.
Okay. Anybody else?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Is there any reason why you couldn't have the generator behind the garage?
It's already been built.
But who built
It's there.
it?
It is an existing generator today.
But the new owners, they
The new-
built it.
Yeah, there's a generator and the propane, and it's
So
there
can
today.
that generator be moved to the back of the house, to the garage, or the barn, or whatever it is?
I can tell you why it can't be. There isn't enough ground there, it drops off, it's too wet.
Oh,
So I think it's where it needs to be, and it's
I was just thinking a
required.
building can kind of mitigate the sound, because that could be an issue.
Well, it'll be the next person's sound then at that point. So, go ahead.
So a few things. So Mendota are the landowners. We are no restorative, we lease from Mendota. So Mendota, they're the landowners and the developers of the property, and then we manage the property with our program. Just so Nora Restorative and Mendota are two different entities. So when they reference Mendota, Mendota are the owners, but we lease from Mendota, just so you know who I am. I'm Nora Restorative. In regards to notifications, it's not our practice in Nora Restorative to not be forthcoming. Part of what we do is provide quality of life for our participants who live in our programs, the staff that work for us, as well as the neighbors. A big part of what we do, and we've been doing this for a long time, is that we ensure that the integrity of the neighborhood is maintained and is as good or better when we're there. We pride ourselves on having good relationships with neighbors. I apologize for how things were before. Again, I'm not sure, the communication piece, and again, I'm relatively new to this project here at Town Road. However, moving forward, I've provided my contact information. We've had a listening session. Complaints, any complaints we're going to look into and see what we can do to kind of help make things better for everybody.
Just prior to the meeting, Michael and I did talk about the fence, and so I think the reason that the response wasn't a specific plan was that we want to look at it. So understanding that the request is to have a fence along the property line to denote the property line. Michael and I were saying that it may be more pragmatic to have a fence around sort of the usable portion of the property. So that's the only reason I think there isn't a definitive answer. No, do you know what I mean? Like in the backyard, something like that. So we just don't have a definitive answer. We've certainly heard the question and the concern, and it's something that we're actively working on.
So,
But you will put a fence up?
that would, absolutely.
Okay. I checked it off my list.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a clear yes.
That's an absolutely yes.
That's a yes.
Yes. Did you have something?
I'm
If you
John
could just-
Arnold from Orrin Reno, representing the applicant. I guess the only thing I would add on the intersection issue and the traffic issue is that, I think everybody recognizes it's a tough situation out there. It is what it is. As Mr. Cedarholm mentioned, I don't think there's much ability to improve that intersection based on the slope constraints and the restrictions on the land around the intersection. it kind of ties to the point that I think Heather was making a minute ago, which is that this use is an allowed use by state law. And so there's some tension there in terms of saying it can't be there. And I don't think that there's enough traffic that's going to be generated by this use to really impose that much more burden on the intersection or the road to create that much heartburn or that much problem with what already exists. So
I'm not looking back there, but I'm sensing a lot of shaking of the head. So I mean, I don't know how you can say that doubling or tripling the number of usage for the travels in and out. I mean, if you've got how many houses? 6 houses? 6 houses, 2 people, cars. I mean, you're going to at least double the amount of volume, but it's 3 times a day. You're doubling in and out, in and out, in and out for the 3 shifts. So
understood, but the total volume is still a very low volume from a traffic standpoint. So yes, it is doubling or tripling maybe what's out there right now, but overall it's still a low impact is my point.
That's fair. Questions? Yes.
Well, I guess not a question so much, but it would seem to me that the intersection is a different issue than the actual pavement piece, what could be paved. And so I'm not sure what the distance is, but that doesn't, even though it's allowed, it still has to be safe for the people using it. And so that would be something that I think should be considered at the city level, where they actually have all the players go and look at it and really analyze it and say, in reality, if this is going to, get a certificate of occupancy, they have to make that improvement at least on the road from paved up to their property. But I think that's something that I think as a board that the staff can kind of request, have the people out there and really analyze it to see.
How long is the road?
To the driveways,
How
from
long?
the corner
So
to them is about 1,400 feet.
1,400 feet
Just to their,
Right.
just to their driveway.
to their driveway.
Yeah.
Okay. And it doesn't go anywhere at Hammerheads or comes back. It's just one way, right? It's just dead end.
No,
We're not the end of the road.
we're not the end of the road.
No.
We're just saying if you're
No,
gonna
no,
request
no. What's left on town? How much?
Oh,
more-
it goes up into
Oh, yeah,
Canterbury.
yeah.
Okay.
So it just keeps going.
Okay. 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 Any other questions,
I
David?
have just a quick question. Excuse me. You said that you are not the landowner. You lease this property?
Yes.
Somebody else. So I guess where I'm losing it is where your responsibility starts and stops in terms of maybe the landowner should be sitting here also. And some of the burden be shared. That I'm not, I don't know, I don't need to get into your lease agreements, and what you become responsible for. But these people out here, maybe they are not addressing the right people to get what they seem to need along this line. So that maybe, I don't know where we go from there, but, and unless you tell me, okay, you accept the responsibility to X, and the landowner takes it from there, or something. But where is that? Where's that point of responsibility?
Well, we're the neighbors. We'll be the neighbors that will occupy 29 Talent Road. That being said, we want to work with the neighbors in the neighborhood to address concerns, to be neighborly.
Do you accept that as part of your responsibility? I mean, I understand being a good neighbor and all of that, but that doesn't seem to be their problem. Their problem is what's being created there by something that you don't own. And now we get into a real gray area about, where it starts and stops, and I'm just suggesting that maybe we're not talking to the right people. I don't know. Because I don't know what your lease requirements are, Do you build the fence or does the landowner build the fence? I don't know. And it gets, and they're obviously maybe not talking to the right people.
Okay.
I have a question, if I may.
Yeah.
It's a question, because I don't know the answer to this. Because I've heard Mr. Arnold say that the use can't be prohibited. My understanding is that the use can be prohibited outright in the district. But that doesn't mean that certain conditions mean that perhaps the use that they're proposing isn't quite right for this location. And you can say, well, there's all, you know, you can't prohibit from, I think, the law is that you can't prohibit outright, you know, this kind of facility in a particular area. But does that mean that any place, even if it's not suitable for this kind of location within that zone, has to allow for that, even if it's not safe, even if it causes, you know, if it's not doesn't fit right, if it's not safe for the residents that are there, because you don't have fire and safety that can get there. You don't have access. I don't know the answer.
Okay.
That's just a question that I
Comments on
that?
I don't know the answer, so that's why I'm sort of, I feel like it's a technical engineering question about the road. After listening to everyone speaking, my
Well,
concern
no,
is.
about the use, about the permitted
Oh,
use.
well,
So-
I think the condition of the road has to do with that. I mean, could we say, I think it would be more, okay, so I can't give legal opinions, right? I'm not a lawyer.
Right.
But my understanding is that we would be able to put the condition on, yeah, you get approval, but you need to improve the road, right? And if they don't want to do that, they can go somewhere else. But I think that's a significant point. I don't think the answer is this is an appropriate location because of the road. I think the answer is you can have approval, but you need to improve the road if that is the way that we would want to go.
And there is the issue, as Mr. Cedarholm spoke to, if you improve the road, does that create a conservation problem or a legal problem?
That's only if you realign it.
Two separate things?
Two different issues.
Only
The
if you change the-
the
if you
paving
change
of
the
the road is
interchange.
one thing, the intersection is a separate issue.
But this is an approved use under the current zoning
No.
with the
No.
variances they
No.
have.
No.
It's not.
No,
It's not approved, it's allowed,
it's
but, because by state law, we
By state
can't
law.
prohibit the use.
Right.
Correct. Gotcha.
So it's not a variance, it's a state law.
It's a state law.
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
Kira?
So along those lines, is this the same state law that applies when the state comes before the planning board with a project?
No.
It's a different one.
It's a different one.
Because they are not the state. It's a completely different law.
Because the one that is cited seems to be the same one to me, but I'm not really sure. And I didn't know when this was initially came to the city. Is it 674?
67454, I think it's the
RSA
same
674.
RSA, but it's a different section.
Which section?
We'd have to look it up.
Okay.
We're not the
It's
attorneys
not-
that wrote this
I'm a
section,
little
this
bit
was
confused
information
about
provided to us.
when the applicant comes before you, is the landowner, and the landowner is the state or an agent of the state?
No.
Versus when the person coming before you is leasing from the landowner who isn't the state or an agent of the state?
It's not, you're kind of
It's not
complicating
that
it a little
one?
bit. It's just, in this case, the landowner is not the state, and the people leasing it are not the state. So it's neither of those things in this case. They have a relationship, I don't actually know all the ins and outs, but they fall under a certain provision that whereby a municipality can't prohibit them from going in any location. However, they still need to comply with all the zoning and site plan and other regulatory provisions that are in place. The only thing that they do not have to do is be prohibited, they don't need
In
to get
that
a
zone.
variance for the use.
Okay.
The use is allowed, everything else applies. It's a very specific provision of the statute.
Suzanne?
Would they have gotten sprinklers? Was that sprinkler?
I don't know.
It is sprinkler. That's why there's a fire pump, and that's part of the generator.
Okay, yeah.
Can I just address a few of the comments that the public has made?
Yep.
So I'm sympathetic to their frustration about the process. We have not allowed them to go through loopholes, as some people have mentioned. They first came, when they came to the city, to the building permit office, they requested a building permit for a 5-room residential. And so that's what they did, as you said, somebody may have called them crafty or sly. That's what they did. Under the building permit for the 5-room residential, they were allowed to do those things. They were told at that time that if they wanted to do an actual residential social service center, they would have to go through the process that they're going through right now. So we have not allowed them to skip any pieces. I don't think that it occurred in the order that it should have occurred because of the way that it happened, and I agree with your sentiments on that, and hopefully we can fix something in our process so that it doesn't move forward in that way again. But they have not sort of gotten away with anything. This is the process that they would have started with before doing all of those improvements, but they are going through it now. So I hope that puts some of your concerns at ease. There's nothing that they've skipped. We've held them to the notion that if they were actually going to try to do this particular use, they would have to go through this process.
That's what they said.
Can I make a comment?
I'm gonna, yeah, go ahead.
I understand all of this, and I understand the legality of it and everything, and they keep saying they want to be good neighbors, but none of us heard about this until 5 weeks ago. So they've been coming to you, but they haven't been notifying the abutters. And all of this has been going on for more than a year. All the improvements and everything, and once again, they may have gone through the right channels, they may have done it properly, but once again, they're being vague, they're not giving us straight answers, and they didn't let us know anything about this until 5 weeks ago.
Okay.
And not even when we went and talked to people on the site, not even when we talked to people on the property. I'm the one who sold the land, and I wasn't told. And when I sold it to the lawyer I sold it to is the one who told me that it was an elderly, retired couple in Ohio. And maybe I should have researched who it was, but that's what I was told.
Okay.
So I was lied to. And
Yikes.
maybe I'm stupid, but,
No. Okay, let's, anything else for us? I'm gonna send you back. Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing, I'm gonna send you guys back. Okay. So again, I think from the residents' perspective, what comes before us in the packet, or if you've seen the agenda for tonight, I think the heavy lift was at the zoning piece of it, as far as the change of use or the, whatever happened at the zoning meeting, because what's before us is really a couple of waivers, which is to grant parking lot marking and signage, and driveway widths, and then also certainly the major site plan approval for the site improvements at 29 Talent Road. There's very little to kind of dig our hands into and say, well, they're asking for waivers, they're asking for this, they're asking for that, and that's typically the process that we have, which is when we see site plans, we can constrain them, we can change them, we can kind of bend them. This isn't that. This is really just a usage issue, and there's not a lot that the board can do other than what Heather was mentioning.
Yeah, I think after hearing all of the discussion and recalling, because I did not recall Mr. Stevens' situation, and I do now recall what he was told back, a few years ago. I think at this point, staff would recommend we continue it and look at the road to see if that should be a condition of approval, because that's a big one, and I don't think we know right now whether that should be a condition of approval or not.
What's the board's appetite for, yes, Suzanne?
I think that we have the purview of the planning board.
Absolutely.
Is to send it back and make sure that, all the stakeholders, the city, goes and looks at it and decides, like, if you're gonna go forward, really the safety issue for the people that, that getting there with emergency vehicles, but also just driving up and down the road. The intersection is another issue, but at least that, and make sure that all those are, the ducks are all in a row, that it is safe, because, it's a beautiful place in the city. I mean, it's probably would be lovely for people to be able to live there. But you have to have it has to be safe. And it's not that you're prohibiting it, but it's got to be safe, and it has to address the concerns of the neighbors.
Council Pierce?
Thank you. I agree with that, but I am wondering if we are opening ourselves up to some other problems in the report. And Heather had mentioned this about the state. So just reading from the report, the zoning administrator classifies this use as a residential social service facility, which is not a permitted use in the RO district. However, the applicant is providing state mandated services to people with disabilities as an agent of the state in accordance with RSA 674-54, governmental land uses. Therefore, they are eligible for the state exemption from local land use regulations to establish a residential social service facility where such use is not allowed. While exempt from this use, the applicant is required to comply with building and zoning codes. So, that said, does that give us the right to go through and look at the uses of the road and so on and so forth? You feel it does?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
I agree.
So what's the appetite of the board? Is it to table this and get some additional feedback from staff and from fire, and maybe have some site visits that can take a look at the road?
I would make that motion.
I would second it.
I would, yeah.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the table and a second. Any discussion? Thoughts from staff? Anything?
I'm sorry, do you want to table it or continue it to a certain date, or?
Well, we can continue it. Could we do it for next month?
Then we don't have to
They don't have to
They would
renotice.
Yeah, so continue it to the June
Continue to the
15, June
what?
15.
June 15th.
You also have site visits in there?
Well, I mean, I think engineering's already been there, but I don't know if it's appropriate for fire to be there and,
Yeah, not planning board, site
Take
visits.
that.
not the planning board, no.
Okay, that's
No,
what I was asking,
no.
so we can take that.
No, yep. Not that we don't want to go, I want the professionals to look at it and advise. That's the way we typically do it, so.
So the motion is to table.
Motion is to table, to continue
to next month.
to the June planning board meeting with input from all necessary parties. So we got a motion on the table and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, so we are tabled. Thank you very much.
Postponed to the next meeting.
Postponed, sorry, continued.
Postponed to the next.
Not tabled, sorry.
Continued.
We got 6 more items on the agenda. You guys can stay.
Just getting good.
Come on, we're just getting started. Thank
I
you.
apologize to all of you for putting that last on the agenda. I
Yeah.
had no idea that there was going to be so
my
many people for it.
apologies. We'd have put somebody else back there. Sorry for that. Okay, referral to city council. We'll get number 9A on the agenda and we can get out. Right?
Yes, I'm just looking for.
So referral to city council request to modify the Garvin's Falls Phase 1 map line of future streets together with a report from the senior planner. So let's get a quick update on what that is, if we could.
All right, so this is Pitco. We all remember the large.
Hey guys, sorry, can you guys, Kate, you gotta keep it down or close the door and go out in the hall? Can't close the door? Go outside. Thank you. Okay. Okay, Sam, sorry.
So this is a condition of approval from the Pitco site plan that you saw last year. We'll remember that. A little bit of background, this map line originally drawn was just basically a line on paper, no engineering was done, there's some massive grade changes, this was not an engineered road, it was just to show a plan. It caused an issue for Pitco as where that intersection is between the Integra Drive extension and the old Suncook Road extension is right in the middle of their parking lot. So they have to amend the map line. This is that process. We had worked with their engineers to ensure that that initial curve coming off of the Integra Drive extension, which they will be building 600 some odd feet of up to their parking lot drive, that is engineered at a 300-foot radius. We went back and forth. That's really the best we can do, and it is very, very close to the ideal radius, and we are okay with that. So they will build that. Beyond that, we just need to show that it connects with the extension. So that purple line that you see in the proposed change, that would be the new
layout. You will notice that it does make a pretty drastic turn. We did that so that it would remain on Pitco's property, and at this time, there is no plan to build it. However, in the future, we would like to see if there was ever interest from the northern property owner to build that extension southerly, that it would connect to the Integra Drive extension in a way that would create a loop road. It may be many, many years, if ever, that this road is then connected to Garbers Falls Road. But at that time, further engineering would occur, because that is really where the most complicated part of the road would be. So at this time, staff is quite comfortable with this map line amendment. It allows for a very significant development to occur and take place, and it does set us up for a loop road in the future, which is something that we've been considering throughout this entire project.
So is the southernmost bump out where it comes out onto Manchester Street, is that mentioned in this note at the bottom of page 1 of the report, the 2004 site plan approval for Freedom Cycle at 110 Manchester Street preserved the opportunity to extend Old Suncook Road south of Manchester Street?
That is the curb cut for, yeah, right, so when it comes off of Manchester Street, that was built in a way that would, that curb cut would not have to be widened for the road.
All right.
So that just shows the history that this has been contemplated for quite some time.
Absolutely. Okay. So what do you need from us?
A
recommendation or referral to City Council?
Yeah.
So would someone like to make a motion to refer this to City Council with Planning Board approval? Or
not a referral, you're just sending them your positive recommendation.
We're sending them our positive recommendation.
They've asked you for your recommendation.
What?
They've asked you for your recommendation.
They've asked us for our recommendation.
Yes.
You
So
have.
moved.
Second.
So a motion's been made, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So kick the can down the road and off it goes.
Kick it back to who kicked it to you.
We won't ask Mr. Holly to come up to the table for us. Thank you, John. Okay, anything else to come before the board this evening? No? You sure? Pretty early, 10:20.
Yeah.
All right, we will take a motion to adjourn. I'll make motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.